I wouldn't wish you for my worst enemy.
Please delete that audio from your phone, from Jabali's phone. Pia kutoka simu mzaa yake, please.
See it for yourself. Ulisema unajua about our past. How much of our past do you know?
Mkutano mshafanya na mkamalo.
Mama Jabali ashafika, niwe hata tunangoja ufike tuanze.
Anakupigia simu kwani simu yangu imezima.
Tutamtegea.
Huyu jamaa alizima simu na akapotea hivyo zile aliendaje?
Kwani
Nili?
Ala. Hata uwezi tafuta watu hata wakuja kufanya.
Mimi na mama Chene tunashiriki kwa kanisa moja.
ukaamua mletee maua?
Hapana, hii ni dadake.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Brilliant. Welcome to the program. Good morning. This is a beautiful Tuesday of 8th April 2025. Good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya once again. Glad that you are up and early with us on this beautiful, beautiful day. All right. So today on People and Politics, let's talk about Kenya overview. Let's take a look at basically everything around us in terms of development, economy, and politics. Where is development, where is economy, and where is the politics? All those three put in the same basket. We all know that they go in tandem. So I'll be taking a look at that later on with my panelists. I have Godfrey Ruku, who is Member of Parliament in Mbeere North, FCPA, Hesbon Omolo, who is the council member of ISPAC, Honorable Bernard Kitur, Member of Parliament, Nandi Hills, and finally Oncheri Frank, who is an advocate of the High Court. Where are we in terms of development, economy, and politics? Kenya overview, a conversation that I would like you to tune in and be with us. Karibu sana to the program. Vivian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tuesday morning it is, and a very good morning to Good Morning Kenya. We are coming to you live from the broadcasting house. It is a Tuesday, so it's definitely Health Tuesday, and today we'll be speaking matters endometriosis. And joining me for that will be one Dr. Charles Muteshi. Dr. Charles is an obstetrician gynecologist, and we'll also be having an endo warrior. Her name is Emily Quira, and they'll be here to talk to us about endometriosis as we break the silence on the condition. Stay with me. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Vivian, and to everyone who is watching Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike Migwe. I welcome you to watch this live broadcast. Remember, you can be part of the conversations happening right here on Good Morning Kenya. We are at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. So you want to tune into every conversation that is happening right here. Let me interest you with a few words of encouragement. Write it in your heart that every day is the best day in the year. Write it in your heart that every day is the best day in your year. Those are words by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, team. Glad that you've made it time to just tune in the headlines on Good Morning Kenya. From talking about what is happening across the political world to matters health, this is a place to be every morning from 6:30. So we bring you up to speed with all stories that have been making headlines. Just in case you did not get my name, it's Regina Manyara. Now let's start off with matters health, where the Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has vowed to restore public trust, transparency and accountability in healthcare, finance starting in Kenya. The CS said the hospital owed claims of above 10 million shillings by the defunct National Insurance Fund NHIF will only be paid after a thorough scrutiny by the National Health Insurance Fund pending medical claims verification committee. According to the records from the Ministry of Health, the defunct NHIF owes healthcare providers approximately 33 billion shillings.
Monday morning at Afya House, Nairobi. The first assignment on Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale's desk was to inaugurate the National Health Insurance Fund Pending Medical Claims Verification Committee that was gazetted on the 28th of March 2025. The committee, under the chairmanship of James Mosiro and his deputy Dr. Anne Wamae, will comprise of 11 members. The committee is expected to scrutinize the hospital claims above 10 million shillings by the defunct National Health Insurance Fund NHIF and complete the process within 90 days, after which a payment plan will be agreed upon.
And I said 3 months, not 6 months, not 3 months and 1 day, I said 3 months.
It will also verify the authenticity of all pending medical claims, identify and recommend actions on any fraudulent, false or exaggerated claims, make recommendations on necessary action for disposal or settlement of identified pending claims, propose reforms or measures that will ensure or prevent the recurrence of unverified or accumulated claims in the future.
We have taken this step to restore public trust, accountability, and transparency in the financing of the healthcare system in Kenya. This committee has been established to provide an independent, thorough, and transparent review of the medical claims submitted to the defunct NHIF.
The committee will be required to pay keen attention to some facilities that reportedly offered services without valid contracts or outside the scope of their contracts. Other areas include facilities that offered services beyond the hospital level, doctors claiming against services outside their areas of specialization, exaggerated invoices, manipulation of member records and their dependents, unsupported surgeries, unwarranted admissions or prolonged stays in hospitals, reported claims by non-existent facilities, duplicated claims, among others.
I would therefore like to urge and challenge the committee to thoroughly scrutinize the outstanding claims and only recommend genuine claims for payment.
The task before us is sensitive. The public is looking at us, and stakeholders must have trust in what we are going to do. And therefore, there is high need of being objective.
The claims to be reviewed were made between the 1st of July 2022 and 30th of September 2024.
We'll be keeping tabs on that particular development, bearing in mind towards the end of last week, we saw the Ombudsman wade into this conversation and asked the powers that be to ensure that the operational challenges that Taifa Care, that is provided oversight by SHA, actually run smoothly for the sake of a majority, or rather all Kenyans now, as the healthcare. Remember, government is also working at attaining universal healthcare, and this is one of the policy changes that was effected to ensure that we get there. Now to security. 5 chiefs abducted in Mandera County by suspected Al-Shabaab militants while traveling to El Wak town in February this year have been released. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, who has begun his 6-day working tour of the coast region, says the chiefs are now in the hands of Kenyan officials and the process of reuniting them with their families is ongoing.
The 5 chiefs who were traveling in a car heading to El Wak for official duty were hijacked at Resuki village on 3rd February this year. The chiefs were going to meet and prepare for a planned visit by President William Ruto to the region that very week. A multi-agency team was put together to rescue them. Around 2 months later, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the chiefs have been released and are now in the hands of Kenyan officials, and they'll be arriving home soon.
We will be commenting further in the near future, once our chiefs are within the country, and we'll give you even more updates on the progress and what we are doing.
The chiefs have been released after 60 days in captivity in Somalia. The chiefs are Mohammed Adawa, Mohammed Hassan, and Assistant Chief Ibrahim Gabou. Others are Senior Chief Abdi Hassan Surau and Mohammed Nur Hache. The Cabinet Secretary attributed the breakthrough to collaborative efforts between the national and county governments with the support of the local community.
This is very good news based on collaborative efforts. As I announced before, that as a government, we decided to work together with the community and to work with the county government of Mandera and the local community, and this process has borne fruit.
He commended the officers for making huge sacrifices to secure the country.
The men and women who have gone out there working in the field, especially along our borders, are doing a fantastic job to protect the rest of us. We don't speak about this every day, but it just needs to be known by all Kenyans that we are safe because our police officers, our NPR, our chiefs, our assistant chiefs, and many citizens in the community who are cooperating with the security sector are helping us to keep our country safe.
That is a development that has elicited quite the debate, especially on social media platforms, with a majority of Kenyans questioning exactly what transpired. You know, maybe because we've consumed a lot of notions left, right, and center when it comes to matters of security, and that, you know, we do not negotiate with terrorists. Exactly what happened? What was there a deal that was reached, and what now happens, especially to the security apparatus that is stationed on our very borders? We had during the Ramadan, have a group believed to also be Al-Shabaab in Lamu coming to a community, giving a lecture and walking out of Kenyan territory with no much resistance from the security apparatus. We'll be keeping tabs on the security situation in our country, especially along the borders now. Now, former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumencha and former Health Principal Secretary Engineer Peter Tum were at pains to explain scandals in the health docket during their tenure as they were vetted by legislators. The duo were grilled on their suitability to hold public office by the National Assembly Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the 3.7 billion shilling scandal that rocked the Ministry of Health, as well as claims of mismanagement and the persistent strikes by medics that threatened to cripple the public health sector. Here's a recap.
It was a day of grilling for former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumencha and former Health Principal Secretary Peter Tum as they faced the National Assembly Committee on Defense over their suitability for the post of permanent UN Habitat Representative in Nairobi and Democratic Republic of Congo Ambassador, respectively. The ghost of a 3.7 billion shillings mosquito net scandal during their tenure at Afya House returned to haunt them, with their integrity and shifting roles in government put to question.
What is the reason for the appointing officer, to change your roles so frequently? Is it because you are not a good performer?
Who is that particular person who instructed that the tendering process be removed from your department?
It wasn't for any other procurement. It was the specific one for mosquito nets, removed from my department, given to another department to handle for purposes of procuring, and you know the rest is history.
The members of parliament questioned the PS grasp of the historical roots of conflict in DRC. Lawmakers also demanded answers on the National Health Insurance Fund scandal, questioning why they did not prosecute any officials linked to the scam.
Your name was linked to mosquito nets scandal involving 3.7 billion, and which attracted national and international scrutiny.
Issue of procurement. It wasn't the PS for medical services. It was a PS for the other department then that had been created under the same ministry. And did I have oversight on that? The answer is no.
Meanwhile, former Health CS Susan Nakumencha was also cornered over the claims that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua may have had a hand in the health-related procurement scandals, an allegation she neither confirmed or denied.
At the point while I was serving chair, and with the information that I was given, his involvement was not there. I got to learn of his involvement when the House was going through the impeachment process.
Meanwhile, former Senator Judith Pareno was grilled by the National Assembly Legal Affairs Committee on her suitability to hold office as a principal secretary in the State Department for Justice and Legal Affairs.
Garnered over the years, I have shown that I've earned the public trust to run institutions for this public and to be able to perform.
Former East African Community PS Abdi Dubat on his part pledged to improve bilateral relations between Kenya and Tanzania.
I'm going to lead the team very well. I'm going to institute reforms that will make sure that the consulate basically is pronounced in terms of the job that it does to uphold the public image of the Republic of Kenya, to stamp the authority of Kenya as an anchor state in the EAC.
Former Nyeri Deputy Governor Caroline Karugu, PS nominee for State Department for East African Community Affairs, also defended her suitability to hold office.
Now, still keeping up with Marta's interviews, remember we are keeping tabs on what is happening when it comes to IEBC, that is the electoral body that is still continuing with its recruitment exercise, and interviews are still happening at the College of Insurance here in Nairobi, and we have a team on hand to keep us updated. Now, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says the government is committed to supporting agricultural research to address food security in the face of the ramped increased population. Speaking at the UN complex in Gigiri while opening the consultative group on International Agricultural Research Science Week, Mudavadi said the forum provides an opportunity for agricultural researchers to come up with solutions that will help mitigate challenges plaguing the sector.
It is during a meeting of the Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research Science Week at UN Gigiri that players in the agricultural sector noted that Kenya's agricultural research system needs to be dynamic, innovative and well-coordinated while focusing on demand-driven research and technology development to improve food security, increase agricultural productivity and promote sustainable practices. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who opened the meeting, challenged the sector players to focus on climate-smart agriculture, considering the food security challenges within the country.
The theme of this year's assembly is timely, considering the unprecedented environmental and food security challenges that the world faces today. The only way forward is through science-driven solutions and multi-stakeholder partnerships.
He noted that Kenya is committed to supporting agricultural research for the country to achieve sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems.
Kenya is fully committed to supporting agricultural research and innovation. It is a call to action for governments, researchers, private sector players, and development partners to chart a new path for sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems.
To each one of you gathered here today, from across continents, institutions, and disciplines, all united by a shared vision for transforming food systems and building a climate-resilient, food and nutrition-secure future.
The International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics Director General Dr. Himanshu Patak noted that research is needed to develop climate-resilient crops and sustainable farming practices that can withstand the impacts of climate change.
So the drylands, which are already poor yielder, are now facing more and more complex challenges of climate change, water scarcity, soil degradation, and of course, several interrelated issues. In ICRISAT, we work on how to improve the productivity of drylands.
Players in the sector further noted that developing high-yielding, disease- and pest-resistant and drought-tolerant crop varieties is crucial to meet the food demand for the growing population. With the Kenyan government committing to support agricultural research, perhaps this move will help to transform the sector. For KBC Channel 1, I am Teresa Mutai.
The Science Week is ongoing at UN Gigiri, and we have a team of business reporters domiciled there to do an update on what will be the outcomes of that particular setup. To the corridors now. The High Court has given the green light for the auction of properties belonging to senior economic advisor Moses Kuria. In a ruling delivered earlier yesterday, Justice Alim Visram declined to stop the auction by Garam Investment Limited on grounds that Kuria had failed to meet his loan obligations. The ruling now paves way for the auction that is set for today, the 8th of April. Our court reporter Letua Deborah has details of this and other stories from the corridors of justice.
The court ruled that the president's economic advisor Moses Kuria was duly notified of the impending action and had ample time to settle the debt on a loan secured using high-value properties belonging to Kuria located in Ruaka and Juja, Kiambu County, but did not act. Justice Alim Visram found that there were no sufficient grounds to grant an injunction stopping the auction. In another legal development, the Kibera Law Courts on Monday ordered the continued detention of Eric Mutinda for 21 days as investigations into the murder of a multimedia university student intensify. Principal Magistrate Zainab Abdul directed that the suspect be held at Capitol Hill Police Station until April 28th to allow the DNA analysis and mental evaluation. The suspect was arrested on April 4th, 3 days after the alleged killing of 22-year-old students within the university premises.
Serious questions that we have posed to the court and to the Director of Public Prosecution and the Director of the DCI is up to what level of either negligence or culpability did the university get involved itself into this matter.
Prosecutors argue that the case points to suspected femicide, a charge that carries the death penalty, and warned that the suspect may interfere with the ongoing probe if released.
It's believed that the respondent is highly connected in this case. So far, the investigating officer is yet to submit the exhibits which were found at the scene of crime to the government analyst for analysis.
My client is not accused, and therefore not being accused should not be held and have his constitutional right under Article 29 of the right to liberty arbitrarily.
Still on keeping up with matters now business is that African countries should reduce their reliance on foreign funding for critical ICT and digital infrastructure projects. According to Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, William Kabogo, Africa has the capacity to meet its own technological and economic needs through homegrown solutions and innovation.
Data shows Africa's internet penetration rate hovers 43%, well below the global average. Yet, the potential is immense. The International Finance Corporation projects that digital transformation could add up to $180 billion to Africa's GDP by 2025. At the International Communication Union Regional Development Forum in Nairobi, speakers called for urgent action to support Africa's digital transformation and accelerate its shift to a digital economy by the year 2028. This includes scaling up innovation, expanding broadband infrastructure, enhancing connectivity, integrating emerging technologies, and harmonizing digital policies.
How do we build local digital platforms that are called home to our countries, Kenya and the continent? How do we build e-commerce platforms? How do we grow innovation? How do we enable startups to grow?
Africa is developing pretty fast, and affordability has become possible in terms of devices and also the use of connectivity. We also see that in the trends, mobile broadband is the primary platform which is helping the world to communicate.
Kabogo says Africa should strive to cut dependency on foreign funding.
Let me tell you, we can get our own funding. All we need to do is be careful about what our priorities are.
Instead, he says, Africa should focus on intra-African data exchange, knowledge sharing, and capacity building to keep pace with rapid technological change.
If you go to Nigeria, a very fast-moving society, they have their successes. When you come to Nairobi, we say we are the Silicon Savannah of Africa. If we cross-change in between ourselves, we should be able to get to the top and then tell our development partners, this is what we think you can do with us, as opposed to them telling us this is where we think we can help you do the following.
Delegates emphasized the need to build synergies across countries, establish a dedicated funding agency, and prioritize homegrown solutions that reflect African realities and aspirations.
Establishing a fund for Africa for building the capacity for infrastructure is very important.
We need to begin to share. I think that we as the continent need to take the lead on this.
Away from ICT into matters trade, where agro-processors should take advantage of the current tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on number of countries by the U.S. and increase exports to America. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the tariff increase to 10% imposed on Kenyan products is significantly lower than the rates Kenya's major competitors in the U.S. textile market face.
185 countries that were slapped with tariff increase ranging from 10 to 50% by the U.S. government. Trade between Kenya and the U.S. is estimated to reach 177 billion shillings, with Kenya exporting 64.3 billion shillings worth of goods, while buying products worth 112.8 billion shillings. Textiles, apparel, and coffee account for over 40% of Kenya's export to the U.S. market. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the move by the U.S. government to increase tariffs on a number of nations will open up the market for more Kenyan textile and apparel products. According to the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the 10% tariff on Kenyan products is significantly lower than the rates facing Vietnam at 46%, Sri Lanka at 44%, Bangladesh at 37%, China at 34%, Pakistan at 29%, and India at 26%, which are Kenya's major competitors in textile manufacturing. Textile and apparel manufacturers have been encouraged to invest in facility upgrades, value addition processes, and workforce development to meet anticipated increased demand. To mitigate against the new tariffs, manufacturers have been advised to increase value addition on coffee, tea, and horticulture goods destined for the U.S. market. However, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry admits that 10% tariff will increase cost for exporters in the short term, denying them much-needed capital for expansion. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry warns that any additional long-term protectionism policies by the U.S. will reduce Kenya exporters' market access, urging exporters to expand their international markets. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Apologies for that oversight. I think we are a little bit too early. We are not even due for breakfast yet. So now let's speak sports, and we start off with some good news where the Kenya Under-17 girls national team, that is the Junior Starlets, wrapped up their preparatory tour in Morocco on a high, registering an impressive 2-0 win over Morocco Under-17 in their second friendly match played yesterday night, that is April 7th, at the Mohammed VI Sports Complex. Now, this win comes days after a closely contested 1-1 draw in the first encounter held on Thursday. Now, the first leg is scheduled for Sunday, April 20th, this year at the Nyayo Stadium, with the return leg set for Friday 25th at the Stade Olympe in Yaoundé. The aggregate winner will book a coveted ticket to the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, which will be hosted in Morocco from October 17th to the 8th of this year. So we wish the ladies the very best of success, and congratulations for that win yesterday night. Now back home here, the Kenya Judo Federation President Shadrack Maluki has announced his candidature for the National Olympic Committee of Kenya NOC presidency, aiming to succeed Paul Tergat, who has served a maximum of 2 terms in office. The NOC elections are set for the 24th of this month, with Maluki set to face off against the current Secretary General Francis Mutuku for the president's position for a tenure of 4 years.
Maluki, who is the current NOC first vice president, a position he has served for a period of 8 years, said he is running for presidency on an athlete-centered NOC, leadership with integrity, inclusivity and prosperity, empowerment and innovation, and financial stability and sustainability.
The only way to ensure that the so-called small federations also go onto the podium and stop just representing us, they be there to compete and win medals, is to ensure that we embark on the youth programs for all the federations.
The Judo African president unveiled his candidature and his 10-member team candidates vying for several positions. Under his unveiled lineup, AK Youth Director Barnaba Koril is his proposed first vice president, and Kenya Hockey Union President Nashon Randiek as his second vice. Table tennis president Andrew Modibo will be vying for the position of the Secretary General, with the softball chair Francis Karugu gunning for Deputy SG, while Fred Chege from fencing is going for the treasurer's position, which will be deputized by Charles Mose from the Cycling Federation.
I've worn the shoes of an athlete. I've been an international athlete representing my country in judo. I have done it for my country. I've been the deputy president, loyal to my president, Dr. Paul Tergat, for the last 8 years. I know the tricks I've learned from the best. I am equipped to take this position.
Two-time Olympic marathon champion Eliud Kipchoge has been fronted as an athlete representative, while Lilian Mududa, Jocelyn Nyambura and rugby president Sasha Mutai will be going for the committee member position.
This new dawn has my vision. We share a common vision, loving our country and loving what we know best, developing the sport and growing it together.
The NOC election is set for 24th of this month, with Maluki set to face off against his current Secretary General Francis Mutuku. 29 delegates from NOC-affiliated federations will participate in the elections.
That effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further details on stories making headlines locally, regionally, and even internationally. Later in the course of the day, at 9 p.m. tonight, we're going to be addressing the new university funding model. What has been experienced with HELB as well as COOPS? Tonight on The Shift, we focus on matters education. See you then. Your feedback you can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Ray Manyara. How has been your experience thus far under the new model? Keep tweeting. See you then. Have a great day.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Shoro FM.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
All right, welcome back. So today being the 8th of April, Tuesday, let's talk about people and politics, but we want to take a look at really what is happening. Kenya overview, a lot is happening in the country, so to speak. And later on, you'll also talk to us on our phone lines, that is 0716 10 3301. Tell us where you're watching us from and how everything is panning out. All right, so Kenya overview today. I want us to take a look at development, economy and politics, the correlation between the three. Development, economy and politics, how are they interrelated, and what is one giving to the other? And basically, it all boils down to Wanjiku. So how is Wanjiku also responding to the three: development, economy and politics? And I just want to understand the structural development of Kenya, basically even from the World Bank, how we are doing politically speaking, economically and development. Remember, even last week, the president was in Mount Kenya region. A lot of politics also came out of that in terms of development, also played out. I really want us to take a look at that. And my guest already in studio, I have Honorable Godfrey Ruku, who is a member of parliament, Mbere North constituency, on set. Okay. And the FCPA has Bonomolo, who is a council member of ISPAC, also on set. Hesbon, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana to the program.
Asante sana.
Karibu. Onchweri Frank is an advocate of the High Court. Wakili, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good to see you this year. We've not met this year.
We have not met.
I didn't get that memo that you are not. I didn't send you away. Karibu.
Thank you, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Okay. Of course, the gentleman, Mheshimiwa Godfrey Ruku, member of parliament. How is our brothers from Mbere North? How are they doing?
They are good. But my name is Geoffrey Ruku, not Godfrey.
Geoffrey, yes.
Yes, Geoffrey Ruku. Mbere North is okay.
Great.
We were there over the weekend. And we'll be there also this coming weekend.
Yes.
We are grateful to the President of the Republic of Kenya for bestowing us the trust to be member of a cabinet of his cabinet.
Yeah.
So that we can be able to serve this nation with commitment and dedication, without fear or favor. And I think that's what we are looking towards doing. But also, we are still serving as serving the people of Mbere North on different issues. We have roused a very huge rural project, which was roused by the president in Mbere North.
Yeah.
On Friday, we will be launching construction of water plants with a PS irrigation. So there are quite a lot which is going on within the constituency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's quite in order to, gentlemen, to congratulate him. I mean, it's an achievement to be nominated for the Cabinet Secretary of Public Service and Human Capital Development and Special Programs. I mean, it's no mean feat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is here. You can congratulate him. Go ahead.
Congratulations, Mheshimiwa.
Right.
I remember not long ago you were with him at KICC.
Yes.
When we were having the swearing-in ceremony for the Deputy President, and you were all very happy. So here we are today again.
Yeah.
He's stepping into the highest policy-making space within government to sit in the cabinet, and I think it's a well-deserved appointment. So congratulations, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Frank.
Yes.
You should know people.
I normally say that those who are doing the work that touches the common person, that's the common mwananchi, they need to be given a very special place in our hearts. And listening to Mheshimiwa saying that he's going to launch things that are going to touch the common people and influence their lives positively, then that's a good thing to do. So on that basis, I want to tell Mheshimiwa congratulations and continue doing that work, continue touching and changing the lives of Kenyans.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so let's get into it, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Hesbond. How is the economy doing so far? When you look at development, economy, and politics, generally, when you bring those three, how are we? A quick overview of the three combined.
I think the three are very much intertwined.
Yes.
I think starting from the political front, we've had a lot of turbulence over the last 2.5 years. Remember, once the elections were done, we ended up with matters going before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And that took a bit of time and toll. And then, of course, subsequent to that, we've had the Sophia demonstrations around the issues of economy, and then prior cost of living, and then after that, the Gen Z protests on the tax, and then now to where we are, we've had change of second in command in the country. So politically, there's been a bit of turbulence, but I think with the onset of broad-based, there's a calming of the storms. And of course, within that space also, there's a heightened conversation in the social fora. Remember, Kenya, in Africa, we are the leading country in terms of internet penetration. And therefore, we have a very vibrant social media space where the common man is able to express him or herself.
Yeah.
But then now, coming to the matters of the economy, there are quite a number of strides we can talk of positively, but also continued challenges. We've had a slight decline in growth of GDP, even though it's still above average compared to the rest of the world. We've also had tremendous reduction in terms of certain cost of living indicators compared to where we were some times back. We've had a strengthened Kenya shillings against the dollar. That speaks to something very positive because it impacts our foreign debt directly and also eases the pressure of business, especially those who do importation. We've had the interest rate go down from as high as 16%. Today, if you wanted to borrow money as a government, you are paying 8-9% on treasury bills, down from about 15-16. That then gives the government some legroom to be able to manage its expenditures a little bit better. So there are certain good signs, but of course there are still emerging challenges. We have very expensive debts that were acquired sometimes back that are maturing. The Eurobond has come with challenges. Anytime the Eurobond repayment, bullet payments come close, it comes with a lot of speculation on the dollar, and that is probably why you also had, amongst other things, the weakening of the Kenya shillings to the dollar towards last year, when we were approaching the payment and there was jitter in the market. So there are a lot of mixed things, a mix of goodies and also emerging challenges. We know the impact of what the American government has on our economy with the withdrawal of USAID funding. So we need to look at how to sustain some of the programs that you are getting support on an off-budget basis from entities such as USAID and Global Fund. And then, of course, the current mess in the world market, because the American government has decided to throw huge tariffs on almost every country across the globe. And there's definitely retaliatory effect that may end up affecting the world market. So we may be facing a recession globally, and that may affect our country as well. So we need to watch out for that. And of course, as we build towards 2027, some of the political issues will slide into the economic space.
Which will affect, how? Negatively, positively?
That will affect our economy negatively, because once there is political uncertainty and a lot of political moving up and down, then generally investors become jittery. They hold back on their investment until after elections. And then on the development front, there are quite some progress around certain areas. There are challenges in many areas, including what we know under Social Health Authority. There are progress areas like chronic diseases, that is well managed. But in terms of certain aspects of paying our debtors on time, or creditors on time, sorry, not debtors, that has been a bit of a challenge, and that affects the overall development programs that the government rolls out, and also in a way affects the flow of money in the pocket of the common man. So I think those are, in a nutshell, that is how I would sum up.
That's a brilliant overview. Wakili, what is your overview generally? Because when you talk about the three, I mean, one affects the other.
Yes.
Great.
I once found myself in the conversation of plumbers and electrical engineers, and I was warned that when it comes to the question of water, you allow the plumbers to speak.
When it comes to?
The question of water, let the plumbers speak. And when it comes to the question of energy, allow the electrical engineers to do the talking. But when it comes to the legal framework, I think the advocates will show the way. Without running away from your question, I will not want to delve much into the economic affairs, but we all know why young men went to the streets last year. It's because of the high cost of living. It's because of an introduction of a tax burden. It was because of unfulfilled promises in terms of job creations. And that saw an uprising in terms of the youths going to the streets to demand for that which they believed belonged to them. Looking at the interrelationship between economic affairs and political affairs, I must say and agree with my colleague here that truly they are intertwined. And the political events affect our economic ideas. We have seen that the country is doing a lot of borrowing. The country is having a huge debt burden, and the foreign foreign policy is affecting our economy. So the question is, how do we move forward as a country, given that all those things are happening right in front of our face? We must be very strategic. We must put our house in order, and we must have policies that can be able to propel this nation forward when it comes to economic affairs. Therefore, the actions of our leaders today will basically and directly affect our economic reasoning and economic output as a nation. We have seen a decrease in the GDP, meaning people are suffering in terms of their basic livelihoods. We have also seen that we are struggling with the debt and we are borrowing a lot. That does not form a good economic trend. And that one is informed by the kind of ideology that the leader is bringing on the table once elected. So we must be able to look at the economic spectrum and the political spectrum in a wide scope for us to be able to sustain ourselves as a country.
All right, Mheshimiwa, when you talk of that, I mean, Wanjiku will be looking at you as a leader, as a political leader. Basically, they'll only run to Wakili when things are thick. to interpret a certain thing, and, FCPA and political, economic analysts and all that. But once you're elected, you are on the chopping board, literally speaking. Mheshimiwa, this and that, this and that. So how do we, can we change the political leadership to basically have some positive impact on the economy and development?
First, let me start by saying what my brother has given an overview of a brief. He has summarized it very well. He has captured all the element of exactly the situation we have in our nation. Not only in our nation, also the situation we have globally, the geopolitical or geo-economical issues. Because we are a community of nations. And within the community of nations, we are quite interdependent of each other. Whatever happens in one country, it affects the affairs of the other nation. So he has given a very nice overview and a very nice brief as far as the situations, whether it is politically or economically and socially. Because he has also talked about the social media, how it's affecting the day-to-day running of government business or our political business. But having said that, it is important to mention that all the development of all nations in the world are pegged much on the political leaders they have. We in Africa, we are more affected by the decisions which our founding fathers of our nations, or even the colonialists, the decisions which they made. For instance, why were we colonized by some guys from, I don't know, wherever? Because different countries in Africa were colonized by different nations. Why? Is it the right thing to do? Why some of our cultures have been killed, foreign religion has been introduced to us. Quite a lot of things, the fabric of our society was affected. But also probably there are a few exchange of culture may have improved the way we look at things, maybe, I don't know. It's something subject to debate. So the decisions which are made by our leaders are very, very critical. Very, very critical. It affects, and this can be experienced from the Asian tigers. When we are talking about structural adjustment in 1980s, which were championed by the World Bank, they affected quite almost all African nations in terms of development trajectory, which was taken by African nation in early 1980s all the way to early 1990s. Did the same thing happen in Asian tigers? The answer is no. They refused. They told the World Bank, no, we can't take these kind of policies. We have our own inherent, our own homegrown policies, which we have decided that we are going to take these steps to grow our economies. And we can see the difference, we can see the impact of some of these policies. So it happens then, 1980s, 1990s. Also at the moment, the policies, the economic policies which we are making as a nation, not only Kenya, but also Uganda, Tanzania, all our neighbors, Ethiopia, all the economic policies which we are making will affect the growth of our economies in a serious way. So the thing is, the question we should be asking ourselves, is Kenya making sound economic policies? And the answer is yes, because the president has made very difficult...
But the question is, the sound economic policies, how does it affect Wanjiku?
That's what I'm saying, that the president and his administration has made very difficult decisions, economic decisions. For instance, as my brother introduced, to get the shilling from where it was to 128, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen because there are other group of policies which are coming into play. No. It's out of deliberate economic policy being followed all through, which involves a lot of heavy lifting of difficult decisions like payment of Eurobond on time. Because there are several African nations which have defaulted payment of the Eurobonds. For instance, Ghana, Zambia, Ethiopia deferred. So there are quite a number of nations which have defaulted. But Kenya did not. Out of very serious, difficult, well-thought decisions. Some of them very unpopular decisions. Very unpopular decisions with a common man. But now we have to accept that this is the situation in which we are in. This debt we took this debt as a nation many years ago during the previous administration. Kenya's administration is a going concern.
Yes.
You don't say, because now I'm the end of state, I was not the end of state then, I'm not going to meet the obligations of the previous government. No. Kenyan government is ongoing. You have to meet the obligations of your predecessor. So some of these decisions are made out of very well orchestrated policies.
Okay.
So what I can say is, we don't build Rome in a day. Kenya is in a journey of getting inflation from 9.6% to 3.3%. That is a lot of work which has been done. Because when this administration was coming to office, the inflation of this country was about 9.6%. At the moment, it's about 3.3, 3.4.
Okay. But you also remember that the Treasury is also planning to review our next financial year, the budget. You know that's husband?
Yeah, I think...
we're looking at some good trillions there.
Yeah. I think, of course, the budget will definitely have to be relooked at.
Yes.
But I think, as Mheshimiwa says, where we are as a country, we need to, first of all, appreciate what journey have we walked. When you talk about something like our public debt, which is now consuming almost $1 trillion of our taxes on an annual basis.
Yes.
That is more than the entire public service expenditure in terms of salaries. So you are paying more in terms of interest than you pay salaries to people who work in government.
Let's take a break. And then at the circle back, you continue with that. And then I also want to take a look at how is Wanjiku feeling, basically. When politics takes center stage, Wanjiku feels the heat of politics and economy. Let's talk about that when you come back. Stay with us.
Ima na wendo mwingi tugikuthokia Embu County, the land of opportunities. Kambunene ya Ngemi FM mushi worata.
Twegagure na kamwetha kama viumeto. Muroro kiande tukunye maire na murori tuthie thokore besa mivukore cha
manje makiyara uranje muri cietu cia thitima na ronje rwathagana nyamu cia kithaka igitugemeria bururi wetu wa mbere Embu County. Ngemi FM tikomono tukianirira na mugambo munene eno ni
Ngemi FM
musie wa urata.
Eno ni nyumba nene
musie wa urata.
Ngemi FM 103.5.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest, each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
All right, I promised to circle back with you, Hesbon, sipping his coffee. So, just a minute for you to complete what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you're also talking about something, the genesis of where we are, economically speaking.
Yeah, I think when we had the former president, the late, may God rest his soul in peace, Mwai Kibaki, he left us in a very stable space. Remember, in 2003, when Kibaki took over power, our public debt was hardly 800 billion. But by the time Kibaki's regime ended in 2013, our public debt was about 1.8 trillion, almost 2 trillion. Now, over the next 10 years, that grew to almost 9 trillion.
Yes.
Now, along that journey, in 2014, as soon as President Uhuru took over, Kenya did something that people don't understand its meaning. We did what we call rebasing of our GDP. So that the indices we were using to measure our GDP was changed. And the outcome of it was that our GDP rose, and subsequently, Kenya became a middle-income country. Now, what does that mean? It means that we moved away from being considered a poor nation. And by that change alone, we were now allowed to get into the commercial market to borrow. That is how we opened the window to get to the Eurobond. If we did not rebase our GDP from every statistic, it would have meant that as a poor nation, you would not even qualify for commercial lending.
Yeah.
Now that also meant that most of the debt then we now started accruing from that phase was now at a higher rate, because the concessions that poor nations get were now out of our reach as a country. And then that now starts to build up to the kind of debt levels you're having. The average debt we held in terms of foreign debt during Kibaki regime had a lifespan of about 14, 15 years. That was reduced by the time the former president left office to an average of less than 10 years in terms of those debts. That meant that they were coming thick and fast with pressure to repay over a shorter period of time. And that affects the fiscal space for any country to develop. So it's important that we understand that. Then we go now to the budget cycles we've had since the last almost 10 years. Every year we have a deficit in the budget of close to $1 trillion. If every year you have a budget deficit of close to $1 trillion of what to borrow, even if you are able to absorb less, over a 10-year period, you can understand why a debt of 1.8 trillion balloons to 9 trillion or 10 trillion. It's no magic. So anybody who has been in the legislative space over that period of time shouldn't look in the eyes of Kenyans and say, we are wondering how this debt was accrued. So that was coming. And therefore, how do we change from that trajectory? First is to gradually reduce the budget deficit to GDP. So on a regular annual basis, we must come down. At some point, we were at about 8%. It's come down to about 6%. Then it came to about 5.3%. Then we now tried an ambitious strategy to bring it to about 3.3%. And it came with the repercussions, because it meant we needed to mop up a lot of taxes to be able to get into that space. That has now been revised to 4.9%. So our deficit to GDP needs to be gradually reduced to about 3%. At 3%, the economy is sustainable.
Which would still mean that Wanjiku will have to beat a bit of some pinch.
So if we are looking at 4.9 this coming budget year, then probably 4.3 like that. Then probably we come to 3 point. So it will take about 4 or 5 years to get to that stable space. But in that process, what else can be done to ensure that the debt service cost is reduced to a manageable level? I did mention last time when I was in your show here that we are spending close to $1 trillion in debt service, and 80% of this debt service is domestic. Yet in terms of absolute values, almost half of our public debt is external, half of it is domestic. And yet when it comes to service, one end consumes 80%, another 20%. So what can you do? And this is a challenge to our mandarins at Treasury. Is it possible that we have some legroom on the external financing front to be able to change the debt mix a bit to even 60-40 so that we free some money that can then go towards certain development projects, including how we can retire and clear the pending bills menace that affects both national and county governments, because that is the answer to the question, why are we having certain good economic indicators, but there's no money in the pocket of the common man? If we were to answer that question by shifting the mix, and I would challenge the economists at Treasury and even our CS, what if you did 40-60? I know it is important that you leverage the risk around external borrowing, because when the dollar strengthens against the shilling, that debt of 6 trillion, 5 trillion turns to 6 trillion in an instant. But if you have a clear strategy to ensure that there is always import cover in terms of our dollar reserves that can go 6-7 months, then the pressure on the demand for dollar is reduced. Then deliberately spike up manufacturing sector and demotivate importation of certain commodities that we can be able to produce locally. But that allows you that.
But then this will also, I'll come back to you, Wakili, shortly, but this, Mheshimiwa, will also call for political and legislative intervention.
Yes. Right? No, you don't need to change any law to be able to borrow more externally than internally. It's more about a decision at policy level in terms of what is the ideal mix that does not expose our economy to external shocks. Of course, you look at all those other indicators. It's more of the balancing act here. How much willing are we to discourage the financial institutions from lending to government? The signals always start with the budget. When you read the budget and the deficit is this much, as a banker, when I see the budget and I see the deficit that is to be borrowed, I know the treasury bills and bonds are coming. And therefore, I withhold some money. Instead of lending Onyango and Wanjiku, I will lend to.
I will ask you what that would really, what should that
just
really mean?
to mention on what he has said, maybe to Ant, is that there are still some spaces, some areas where we can expand the tax base, correct some little more revenue to government or for government without injuring or making it painful to the Wanjiku. This can only happen if there are some registrative areas where we can see that this area has not been taxed. For instance, I can give you an example of Fatio asset space. There is a lot of that which is being traded as far as crypto currencies and other virtual asset or digital asset space is concerned. But our nation, our government, our country, we are not able to tax that space because we don't have a legislative framework, a legal framework. We don't have an act of parliament which can give ways of doing it. So we need to ensure we have an act of parliament touching digital space, digital asset space or virtual asset space or cryptocurrencies, so that we can add more money in our coffers. At the same time, there are many other areas which we can come up with a legal framework And that is the work of the National Assembly and the Senate to ensure it is done, so that we can give our government a space of collecting more revenues. So there are still many areas which are not properly regulated, and therefore money is not getting into our coffers. Okay, so as my brother mentioned, yes, we have already proper laws in place or act of parliament in place to ensure the taxation. Still, we have some rooms available for growth in terms of new areas and putting in place legal framework which can help us in
maybe just to add something to that. I think that's a good point, and it's an area we need to look at. But I think something interesting happened yesterday, that the launch of e-procurement was done yesterday by the CS Treasury. What does that mean? There is accusation that we buy very expensively. So we are starting to look at the expenditure side of things. Can we manage the expenditure side of things, reduce wastage, and reduce what we call corruption at the procurement space? If 80% of public procurement is done through a digital space where there's visibility, we may end up cutting out a lot of unnecessary wastage on the expenditure front. So that's a good thing as well that will feed into that.
But listen to the two gentlemen. I mean, the political goodwill also will have to come into play, because Wanjiku will all just consume what politicians tell them. But at the end of the day, there's some legal framework which any omission will affect the general outcome of economic stability, the development of the country. And then, as they're correctly putting it, there are certain decisions which have to be very much painful for us to enjoy whatever we will be in future.
You know, the beautiful thing about our legal framework, even the manner in which we come up with the laws, even the manner in which Parliament will enact laws to guide the space of what Mheshimiwa is talking about, it's the fact that there is always the aspect of public participation. Then you will have to come down to the common man and be able to take their views on what they think. The question is, how many people or how many citizens are in that space of digital lending, as Mheshimiwa said, and how much are they projecting to be able to siphon from that space for it to be able to make an impact in the Kenyan economy. The laws which are in place, the loopholes which have been seen in terms of corruption, misappropriation, divergent of funds to unnecessary projects, what has it been done to be able to ensure that all those loopholes are being sealed? And that is why the common person, that is Wanjiku, will never ever agree to the proposals that the government is putting in place, because those glaring loopholes are what is hurting them, and the government is not doing enough to be able to address any of those loopholes. When you are talking about reducing the borrowing and increasing the tax base, there are certainly legal things that you have to do for you to be able to get there, such as enacting legislation, and you'll have to go back to the people and be able to get their views. If you're not able to convince the common person that whatever you are doing is not in line, or rather it's not going to be geared towards hurting them, then you will not be able to be there. The common person will be looking at the judiciary and filing petitions left, right, and center, trying to stop all that. In as much as there is goodwill from the individual person to be able to increase that tax base, what is it done? What is it being done to be able to address the already existing loopholes? That is the question that needs to be addressed. That is the question. Those are the things that needs to be addressed by the government of the day. And as Mheshimiwa said, the political decisions by the political players is what basically affects all these issues. Such that if you don't have a person who's not careful, if you have a person who's not looking at the experts and getting sound advice, you'll be on hot soup. You'll not be able to propel the country forward economic-wise because you will be looked at a failure. And you see, politics has taken center stages as far as even economic affairs are concerned. We need to be able to look at how best can the politics, how best can our political leaders look at the economic issues that are facing the country and be able to address them soundly without hurting the common person.
That is, you're taking the hit, the political class.
Yes.
Affecting decision making.
Yes, decision-making process on the affairs of the nation is very critical, and we have many issues, my brother, which are affecting our people. For instance, the constituency I represent. When you talk about water, when you talk about electricity, when you talk about roads, when you talk about schools, when, you know, we are not yet there where we need to be. And the decisions which we make, especially in terms of allocation of resources to some of these sectors, matters a lot. But there are those very critical sectors, which I think, from where I sit, that as a nation, we need to put more focus in those, in a number of sectors. One of them is health of our nation, or health of the common man. The health sector needs proper care, because even the very, very poor, they have to go to hospitals. They have to go to the dispensaries. And it pains most when the very poor in our village cannot be able to access health services. So a lot of effort needs to be put as far as that sector is concerned. Education sector, the very poor in our community need to access education. Our constitution obligates us that there is right to education. We have to ensure it is done. If we are not able to pay for the education, it means most of them will be dropped out from the primary schools. They will not be able to progress. And we have extremely brilliant young kids in our deep, very forgotten corners of this country. So these are two sectors of our economy which requires a lot of investment. The other sector also is agriculture, because we have to look at probably how we can zero rate the value addition equipment within the agricultural sector. Is it possible for a household in a village to be able to mill their own maize and have their own flour using a very simple equipment? And these technologies are there. How can we get these technologies back into our deep in the villages, you know, for the purposes of value addition? Is it possible to have to add value of our tomato, not necessarily taking them to a very big factory, but a small factory, I mean a small kind of home equipment, and you can be able to do your own tomato, I don't know, whatever it is. You know, we have to be able to think, because agriculture can bring a lot of money in the pocket of... and when my brother here was talking about not subsidizing consumption and subsidizing production, and we have seen it has worked. At the moment, we are not talking about importation of cereals in this country. We are not talking about importation of sugar in this country. Before this regime, we were importing sugar. We are importing maize. We are importing all manner of cereals. The only thing which we are importing at the moment is wheat. All these other, there's plenty of production within the economy.
So this is a question
that has come out of the reparate policies which have been put in place. So if we further these policies more and we invest money more, we'll be able to sustain our people.
So the question I want to ask all of you, we are almost getting to the close of this financial year and rolling into the next. what are some of the indicators are we looking at? In 1 minute, Mheshimiwa, before I come to you, Hesbon, what are some of the indicators? I mean, is there something that we can borrow from this financial year to the next, even to make them better?
See, digital transformation of different sector within the economy is extremely important. It will ensure our services are efficient, are effective, are less costly in terms of the money we put into, we invest in offering services to the public. So investing in digital superhighway or that space, this is something which must continue even in the next financial year. That is one of the very critical things which I think we'll be borrowing from. I know there is quite investment which have been done for the last 2 years in that space, because, for instance, all the constituencies in the Republic of Kenya are under very firm instruction. We have to be able to have one high digital hub in every ward, and money allocated for that from the CDF kitty. In an effort of ensuring that the getting of services is as penetrating to all corners, to all villages in the Republic of Kenya. Okay?
Okay.
So this is one of the things which I think you have asked me, what are we borrowing? This is one of the things which, to me, is very critical in accelerating, you know, the growth of this economy in the future.
Okay. Hesbon.
Yeah, I think there are quite some interesting things we can borrow and run with into the next financial year. I think, like we always say, budget has two sides, the revenue side and the expenditure side. To strengthen what we've done on the revenue side is known, and I think there's legroom, yes, but not much. But on the expenditure side of things, e-procurement has been rolled out. Let us ensure that this is effectively rolled out. Number two, we have been running on what we call cash basis accounting for public sector, especially the various state departments and county governments. We must run away from that and go to what we call accrual accounting. That way we'll forget about the language of pending bills, which is non-existent in accounting terms. When we do that, we'll have full visibility of the exposure of our various state departments and national government entities and even counties in terms of what is it that they owe out there and what is it that they don't owe, so that we also root out corruption that is easily embedded in cash accounting. Imagine, under cash accounting, the way you account for a pen is the same way you account for a motor vehicle. So it's a bad way. It doesn't happen in the private sector. It will help us get the right visibility. Then reform the Kenya Revenue Authority in terms of how it can be able to collect more revenue without adding additional taxes. Then get to the common man, because the 3 million plus who are salaried and have pay slips are crying that their pay slip has been raided by the additional taxes. Can we then see how we can gradually ease the pressure on them? Because that's also what fuels anger in the middle class, and then it snowballs into the public, which then also speaks to the social protection programs. How can we ease the pressure on the common man through a proper and structured way of handling the challenges in the education sector?
That will squarely roll on your table, Mheshimiwa. Special program.
So ensuring that the social protection programs are running well, education sector backed on track, so that the poor parent who has a child in the university has some faith that there's a brighter tomorrow through their children. So that space is very important. Healthcare, I know there's a lot of reforms under SHA. If we are able to ensure that, as it is now, getting a chronic disease is not a license to poverty and selling of property by the poor people, because chronic diseases are fully covered. Extend it to functioning level 2 and 3 hospitals and our CHPs, so that everybody who has a right to health, which is in our constitution, is able to access this health. And I think for me, the reform under SHA that targets the entire population is very key to a harmonious society. Once we address these social issues that easily exacerbate the challenge in our society, I think we'll have an easier way of managing our political space, so that our politics does not affect the growth of our economy. You can imagine that growth of last year Because of the challenges we had in June, the quarter that followed registered a dip in terms of GDP. So the effect of some of these social challenges that then spill over to the political space has a very, very devastating effect on the good ideas and policies that the government is putting in place.
Okay, I want to finish with you, but on the same breath, you can ask Mheshimiwa one question. Probably, I assume that he's on the panel now, he's being interviewed for that position. But don't be too mean. Don't be too mean. Okay, on a lighter note though, go ahead.
No, to answer your question, first of all, if there are things that can be borrowed from this financial year, personally I can say that we have to appreciate the work that Honorable C.S. Mbadi has done in terms of trying to engage stakeholders and those who are involved in any financial and budget making processes, especially trying to hear the views of the common person who is always the one who feels the heat, trying to take their views and be able to accommodate them in the budget estimates that he is going to come up with. There is a lot of legal framework that needs to be done for us to be able to have a proper budget that can be able to address most of our issues as a country. That space has not been exploited. Stakeholders have not been brought on the table. I think what needs to be done is for those stakeholders to be engaged and see to it that the tax base can be increased without hurting the common person. And that means it goes down to the policies that are going to be put in place. And those policies, the bad thing about this panel is that they will always end up with Mheshimiwa's desk in Parliament. And those parliamentarians are the ones who are now going to decide for all the Kenyans. We miss, or rather they miss, then we are in a mess. They enact wrong laws, they bring in place bad policies, we are in a mess as a country. We need to look at how can we be able to come up with sound legislative policies that can accommodate the common person and increase the tax base for us to be able to be sustainable as a country.
Okay. Your question to Mheshimiwa. Today we're breaking the rules on the show.
You know, Mheshimiwa started the show by blaming the forefathers on the things that are happening in the country today. But I'm happy that he was there and he had the opportunity to make things right. Right now, he has been nominated to serve somewhere in the cabinet.
Yes.
The question to him is, how best can he address the issues, or rather the mess that was created by the forefathers, instead of crying left, right, and center that, oh, our forefathers, oh, the founders of our country, oh, the previous regime. He is there now. What can he do as a person to be able to change the narrative and bring a better country?
Okay.
One, I did not blame our forefathers, and what we should always do is to thank for those who are there, those who served this nation, or served different nations. I was just bringing out a global picture that our forefathers made decisions which are affecting us, either negatively or positively. Every nation. For instance, why is, I don't want to talk about other nations, but we have some nations within our region which are in a chaotic, state. And they have too much resources, you know? When I say that, you may imagine which nation I'm talking about. It's because of some of the decisions which were made by who are in power then. So this is what the picture I was trying to bring out, so that we can understand how important and serious it is when you are in a position of authority to do what is right for the nation. So what my brothers asked me is is to be committed, is to make the right decisions for this nation, and especially for the docket which have been nominated for. That is, if I will be successful in the vetting process. You never know, okay?
Yeah.
So once I'm successful, once I'm sworn in, I'll be there fully committed to serve Kenyans without fear or favor, without looking at political shades, because you are serving the entire nation. You are serving each and every corner of this nation. And everybody is looking at the public good, and it must be seen coming out of your service.
Okay.
So this is exactly the kind, the dedication which I put each and every day to ensure the Kenyan in Mandera, the Kenyan in Migingo, the Kenyan in Ramu, and other corners of this country, as far as my docket is concerned, I'm getting value for their money.
Great. Okay. You have a question for him? Yes, Paul.
No, mine is just to wish him well.
Okay.
And I know he's up to the task. And I think one thing that excites me is that when you have leaders leading policy, leaders who have had an opportunity to engage one-on-one with the common man, I think appreciating the challenges becomes easier, and I think they see it better. So wishing him all the very best.
Thank you. All right. Mheshimiwa, you were in the mountain the entire week. How was it? A quick one as we wrap it up.
It was a big success. First, I want to congratulate the president.
Yes. 5 days.
Yeah, for the effort he made and for guiding all the politicians to have a very successful tour.
Yes.
Of course, there was a narrative which was penned on across social media and everywhere that the president cannot be welcome.
Ground ikoaje?
That can't be welcome in Mount Kenya region. We saw how Kenyans in the mountain were eager to receive the president. It was even astonishing. You could not even believe that it is happening. For instance, we went to Runyenjes. I could not trust my eyes whether what I'm seeing is actually true. Okay, so it was a very successful tour. Of course, probably there are some few areas where we can say kidogo, some itches here and there.
If you can say it's normal, right?
But that is normal in politics, but if I was to give it, to rate it out of 10 or out of 100, I would give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 1 for margin of error.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you. That is very huge achievement.
All right.
That means if the president make another visit within, let's say, a month or two, this narrative everybody talking about, there's no such a kind of a narrative. Ground indifferent, ndugu yangu. Vitu indifferent kwa ground. Because we have a few people who are making, very few, but very round. 2-3 people who
hope
are
next
there,
time when you invite him here, you
very round.
You'll come back in a different capacity to tell us what's actually on the ground. Ground is different. Okay. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much. He did not come yesterday because, of course, he was so exhausted. He apologized. That's why he's here today. There was a poster. He apologized. He was worn out. We understand, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much for coming. Geoffrey Ruku, Member of Parliament, Mbeere North. He's also a nominee for Cabinet Secretary position for Public Service, Human Resource, Capital Development, and Special Programs. Asante sana for coming to the show. And of course, FCPA, Hezbollah Omolo is a council member, East Park. And of course, Wakili, Frank Oshweri, thank you so much. He's an advocate of the High Court. All right, that's where we wrap it up. We are taking a break, but after this, we are crossing over to Zinga, where Rashid Mwamkondo will be taking anchor of that segment. My name is Victor. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest, each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Kenya's real estate market is evolving, with over 77% of rental properties being flats and apartments and an impressive 88.8% occupancy rate. The demand for housing has never been higher. But what's driving these trends? And how do regional disparities shape rental prices and investment opportunities?
I think a lot has brought growth into the Kenyan real estate sector over the past few years. I think there's been steady growth since 2016. 2016 was, I think, the year when there was the best performance in the real estate sector. A lot of this has been brought by infrastructural development. The government has been willing to spend on roads and power and water. These things, of course, make it for a very suitable market for real estate to grow as well, because it's very hard to come up with something where there's no access to it. You see, the Kenyan market is designed in such a way that the Chinese are here, the Turkish are here, they're developing, European countries are here. I think some of our infrastructural projects are even funded by Spain. So the ease of accessing the Kenyan market, even Arab markets are here, and also the ease of finance that has been there for quite some while.
According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics Real Estate Survey of 2023-2024, flats and apartments now dominate Kenya's rental market, making up 77.1% of all properties. In Nairobi, this trend is even more pronounced, with 66.7% of all rentals being apartments. But why?
I think it's because of the demographics of the Kenyan population. The census that was done most recently showed that most of us are youth. Even here, most of us are the youth. So we have our families, they are growing. So you want to bring up your family in a comfortable unit. The most comfortable unit for that is a 3-bedroom, because it allows you to have the master bedroom, it allows you to have the kids' bedroom and a spare bedroom, maybe for visitors, the house manager, and everyone else. I think also the growth of the 3-bedroom units, has been around the suburbs, where we are having master planned estates coming up. So with that master planning, when you do a survey, before as a developer, when you do a survey and you see where there is a gap, then you see there is a gap in the in the 3-bedroom where you want to cater for a family. And you'll see that also for a family, when I'm buying a unit for my family, I'm willing to also get a mortgage for it. So with the growth of the KMRC sector, the Kenya Mortgaging Refinancing Institution, and the circles giving these mortgage loans, then it's a sweet blend where the 3-bedroom is very affordable and marketable and also very attractive because we are a young population. We want something we can have our family growing comfortably, and there is finance that you can access for that.
Despite high rental costs, demand remains strong. For instance, in 2023, 88.8% of rental properties were leased, a clear indicator of Kenya's housing shortage.
I think it's a broad issue. First of all, I would start with the way the market started. A lot of what is done in the residential market is off-plan sales. And there's been a lot of fraudulent activities, so people are hesitant to invest before you see the unit. Yeah? So you'll hold your breath. You'll see there's maybe a development coming somewhere, then you'll tell yourself, let me come next month to see whether they've grown and to see whether they've delivered. I can also say that because of the impact 2024 has had on our pockets as Kenyans, I know there was a report done that said that Kenyans are willing to spend more on a smaller unit so long as it's affordable and gives them access to amenities, closer access to work, such that they just want the unit in a place that's accessible than where they can get, maybe you travel longer to get to your 3-bedroom unit.
Not all rentals cost the same. A 1-bedroom bungalow rents for as low as 15,000 shillings, while a 4-bedroom bungalow can go as high as 170,000 shillings. Townhouses in particular attract premium prices of up to 120,000 for a 2-bedroom unit.
For the buyer, it's more than just the unit. So even though they are buying it for
Naam, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba mpenzi mtazamaji wa runinga unayoenzi ya KBC Channel 1. Robo saa dakika zimekatika baada ya saa 2 saa za kanda ya Afrika ya Mashariki mtazamaji. Bila kupoteza nukta sekunde wala dakika, karibu sana kwenye Gumzo Pevu, ni kipindi ambacho huangazia masuala mbalimbali yenye umuhimu wa kitaifa, na hii leo mtazamaji tunaangazia siasa kwenda mbele, na studioni bila kupoteza nukta sekunde wala dakika, mbali kabisa niko naye Mheshimiwa Bernard Kitur, mbunge wa Nandi Hills, na vile vile pia katikati, ama kabla sija kwenda kule katikati, lakini nianze katikati, Daktari John Mukundi bila shaka, alafu vile vile pia tuko naye Bwana Osoi hapa. Karibu sana ndani ya studio zetu. Na hapa kuna muda wetu umekwenda sana, tutaingia moja kwa moja kwenye mada. Mtazamaji, kumbuka Rais Daktari William Ruto amekuwa katika ziara mbalimbali za kimaendeleo katika maeneo mbalimbali kote nchini. Amezuru maeneo ya kaskazini mashariki, amezuru Nyanza, amezuru magharibi mwa nchi, amezuru maeneo ya Kisii, amekuwa pwani ya Kenya, na hivi punde alikuwa katika maeneo ya Mlima Kenya, na duru za kuaminika zinaarifu kwamba pia huenda akazuru baadaye maeneo ya Kajiado. Lakini mtazamaji, wengi wamekuwa wakizungumzia hii ziara ya rais kule Mlima Kenya ambayo ilipangwa ikapangika. Kumbuka rais aliita viongozi wa maeneo yale katika ikulu ya Nairobi, ikaweza kapangwa vizuri sana, na hatimaye siku takriban 6 rais alipiga kambi kule. Ni ziara ambayo tuliona vitu mbalimbali mtazamaji, halaiki ya watu walijitokeza, na kuna baadhi ya viongozi wa kule ambao walikuwa na wakati mgumu sana kujieleza mbele ya umma huko wakizomewa vikali. Lakini je, ziara ile ilivuna ama ilikuwa vipi? Moja kwa moja bila kupoteza nukta sekunde wala dakika, nianze naye Bwana Patrick Osoi, changanuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Je, unahisi ziara ya Rais William Ruto Mlima Kenya iliweza kupunguza joto lililokuwapo katika eneo lile?
Actually, yale mambo ninayo ni haya. Wale ambao ni tuseme advisors to the president, ni watu ambao sijui kama ni kumpoteza wanampoteza, ama kwamba wanamuelekeza vile anavyotakikana.
Ndio.
Kwanza nisungumze nikisema kuwa nikitarajia kuwa rais wa 6 wa Kenya. siwezi tarajia rais ambaye nitachukua ushukani kutoka kwake aweze kufail ama kuweza kufanya kazi ambayo si nzuri, kwa sababu siwezi taka kuchukua serikali ambayo imedhoofika. So kwanza niseme kuwa wale watu ambao wako karibu katika State House, ama wale advisors katika security, katika mambo ya economy in this country, they are really misleading this country. Kusema ukweli, ukiangalia katika katiba yetu, that is makala ama article 132, kuna provisions ya mambo ambayo rais anapaswa kufanya. Kwa hivyo naweza sema kwenda mlima Kenya ama kusunguka kwa rais ni kudunisha uraisi. Actually mimi siwezi kuwa rais na siwezi taka kuwa rais ambaye atadunishwa kuzunguka katika nyanja mbalimbali, ingawaje tuko na kitu inaitwa devolvement katika government yetu ya Kenya. So tukua katika ile devolvement. So haina haja kukuwa na devolvement kama rais anaweza toka State House kwenda kuangalia mambo ambayo tuseme si project ambao unaweza sema is an industry ambao inakusudia kupea vijana kazi ama watu kazi. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia industry ama vile project ambao president aliweza kuzidua, si project ambazo is an industrialization kind of project. These are projects that are fixed kind of assets ambazo zinaweza kufanya serikali yetu pia iwe na ugumu ya kuwa na pesa. So we want to see in a devolved government, watu ambao wanasindua zile miradi ni wale viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa kule, kama mheshimiwa wetu hapa Kituru, kwa sababu yeye nikienda kuzidua mimi kama rais project kule kwake, atafanya kazi gani kama mbunge? Naye akiwa governor pale, governor anaenda kufanya kazi gani? So mimi naomba hivi, kama tutakuwa na wabunge, tutakuwa na rais kwa siku zingine, ni muhimu watu kama ni kuingia bunge, kama wanaingia bunge kutoka Monday mpaka Friday, wafunzwe katiba na wafunzwe mambo mengine kulingana, so that when the government and the government is being run isiendeshwe ni kama kuna utata fulani. So wacha niseme kuwa ile visit ya president kule imefanya watu kama sisi tukajiuliza maswali mingi sana. What are the duties and the responsibility of our president in this country? Kwa sababu yale mambo alienda kufanya kule ni siasa peke yake. Mimi mpaka juzi nikasema mimi nimekuwa nimenyamaza Patrick Kosoi. Sitaki mambo ya siasa sasa hivi, manake anajua nataka tumpe wakati wake mzuri. Tukikuja kwenye gari sasa kusema tunapiga campaign, tupiga campaign ambayo ni tosha. Lakini kama wamesema tuanze siasa, pia tuko tayari kuanza siasa.
Nashikilia hapo msikilizaji, ni kauli yake bwana Patrick Kosoi. Mheshimiwa Bernard Kituru, umemsikia bwana akisema kwamba ni kama rais ofisi ya rais inadunishwa, hafai kuzunguka huko, hiyo ni kazi yenu wabunge, magavana.
Ningependa kwanza kusalimu watazamaji wote na wasikilizaji wote katika pembe zote ambapo wanaweza kutusikiza hewani siku ya asubuhi ya leo. La pili, ningetaka niseme kwamba nadhani ile ziara ya rais ambao amekuwa akifanya kutoka mwaka ukianza, sijui kwa nini tunaanza kuongelea mambo ya mlima sana. Rais amekuwa akifanya hayo kutembea katika pembe zote za Kenya. Alianza katika Rift Valley wakati wa December. Na nakumbuka aliweza kutembelea hata earlier before alikuwa amekuja constituency yangu na alikuja kuzindua some projects na zingine alikuwa anakuja kuinspect. Akawa ametoka pale ameenda Nyanza. Kulikuwa na Nyanza na akaenda pia kule Coast. Na nakumbuka kwa hayo mikutano yote, whether Coast hata kwenda kule
Western,
hata wajia huko Mandera, jambo ambalo halijawahi fanyika. Na kila wakati rais anapokuja anaita kwanza viongozi wote. Sijui kwa nini hili la mlima limekuwa la maana sana, kwa sababu viongozi wamekuwa kiitwa. Munaitwa kwanza, mnamweleza rais yale yanaendelea katika kila constituency, kila county. Magavana wao wanakuja, maseneta wanakuja, wabunge wanakuja, na kisha even baadaye rais akiwa sehemu lile, hata ma MCs wote wanaitwa. Kisha rais anamwambia katika sehemu hii, hayo ni mpangilia ambao nimeambiwa yanaendelea, ninataka nikuje niazindue na nione pia vile naweza wasaidia. Nataka pia nimkumbushe Patrick kwamba kuna kwanga na kitu inaitwa presidential directive. Na presidential directive, wakati rais amekuja mahali na wananchi wameomba jambo fulani, akipeana hiyo directive, wakati sisi tunatengeneza bajeti, we first of all factor in presidential directives. Ndio maana unaona sisi kama viongozi tunakaribishanga rais kumwambia tembelea katika sehemu yetu. Na ningetaka pia nimwambie pengine ndugu yangu hapa hajaelewa vile siasa sasa imeanza kubadilika Kenya hii. Ni kwamba wale marais wa kitambo, na kuna penye katika constitution yetu inapeana kwamba rais inafaa afanye siasa yake namna hii ama agenda yake maendeleo namna hii. Lakini rais amechagua sana hata ukiona mambo ya national functions anaendanga siku hizi to various counties to reach down to the people. Hata katika mambo ya maendeleo rais amechagua kwamba nitakuwa nikikaribia penye wananchi wako wenye walimwandika kazi ni hao wananchi. Huwezi kuja kukaa hapa Nairobi, hiyo ni being listen, na hao ni viongozi wa hapo past. Rais William Ruto amebadilisha na nguvu yake yote ako naye, anaamua kwenda kule ground. La tatu, ningetaka pia niseme kwamba huwezi kwenda kufungua saizi mambo ya industries peke yake. You have to also look at the infrastructure. Mambo ya mabarabara, high value projects. These are billions of shillings. Ambapo rais pia anafaa kuwe pale ndio aone, je, hii barabara imefungua hapa ikienda sehemu lile lingine ama projects ya institutions. That is how low we still are, but ndio sasa tunataka kuinua nchi yetu kutoka sehemu hiyo. Nataka nimalizie nikisema kwamba kutembea kwa rais katika Mlima Kenya, kwangu mimi vile mimi navyoona ilikuwa mambo ya maendeleo, lakini pia kidogo kuna kwanga pia na siasa, ambapo mambo ya vile mambo yanavyoendelea, hali ya maisha ya watu inavyoendelea. By the way, siasa ni njia ya kukawanya mali ama rasilimali. Hii ingine ya kudhani ni kelele na fitina is far off, na hiyo ni siasa duni. Siasa ambayo inafaa tu tukijadiliana sasa ni siasa ya maendeleo. Na ningetaka niseme kwamba yale mimi niliona kule mlimani wakati rais ametembea kule kote, kwanza nashukuru sana watu wa mlima kwa sababu walimkaribisha rais kwa njia ya kipekee. Na nataka nishukuru rais kwa ile mipangilio ambayo ameweka kule mlimani. Mimi nafurahi kwamba vile mlima itakuwa ikiendelea katika mambo ya maendeleo, chinzi vile coast itakuwa ikiendelea mambo ya maendeleo, chinzi Rift Valley itakuwa ikiendelea mambo ya maendeleo, chinzi Nyanza itakuwa vile na Mandera.
Okay. Mtazamaji, Mheshimiwa Kitura anachemka na Patrick Osoya anachemka. Je, hili joto Daktari Mukundi atalituliza? Daktari, hebu tusikie sauti yako na.
Asante sana. Kwanza nisalimie mtazamaji wetu mahali popote ambapo anatutazama. Na niseme hivi ya kwamba kulingana na mimi nafikiria ziara ya Mheshimiwa Rais katika Mlima Kenya ilikuwa tu siasa. Haikuwa kitu yoyote ya maendeleo. Kwa sababu kitu ya kwanza tunasikia kwamba alienda kuzindua projects zingine ambazo zilikuwa hapo. Na hizo projects tukiangalia kama ile ilikuwa maua, ni project alikuwa ameweza kuzindua mara tena, mpaka wanafukua mahali ambapo pipes zilikuwa ili kuonekane ya kwamba anazindua tena. Alafu hatuwezi kaa Kenya hii tukizindua. Saa hii tuko mwaka wa pili, na tukiwa mwaka wa pili ama miaka 2 imeisha ama 3, ni kumaanisha kwamba president saa hii anafaa kutuambia mwaka wa kwanza nimefanya hili, mwaka wa pili nimefanya hili, mwaka wa 3 ninaendelea kufanya hili. Lakini nakaa ni kama tu bado tunazindua. Tutaendelea kuzindua mpaka saa ngapi? Na aswa tamu yake ya kwanza ni kama inaisha. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni kitu ya kwanza. Kitu ya pili, hauwezi niambia kwamba ilikuwa development tour kama wale watu ambao tunaona wakienda na wao wanapiga tu siasa. Na kwa hivyo ilikuwa tu political, na nilikuwa nafikiria ni kupima hewa ya Mount Kenya, aone ama mbando tulikuwa tuko pamoja ama tuko pamoja. Kwa sababu ni kama alikuwa ameanza mahali ambapo alikuwa nafikiria kuna watu ambao watamsaidia pale Laikipia. Alikuwa anajua kuna Mheshimiwa Mwangi Kionjori hapo, kuna wengine ambao wangeweza kumsaidia, lakini kakuta ya kwamba mambo imechemka hata kwa ground. Na unajua akipima hewa ni vizuri yaangalie hivi, ajue ya kwamba vile tu tunaona yeye watu hawakumpigia kelele ama nini. Na nashukuru viongozi wetu sababu alituambia kwamba sisi kama watu wa Mlima Kenya ya kwamba tusipige makelele, lakini ni vizuri pia aelewe ya kwamba vile ambavyo anaona akina Kimani Ichung'wah akipigiwa kelele, vile anaona mheshimiwa mbunge wa Nyandarua akipigiwa kelele, na hao watu wengine ambao waliweza kupigiwa kelele, ni indicator enough ya kuonyesha kwamba Mount Kenya ni kama sasa tumetengana.
Mtazamaji, wasikia maneno hayo. Leo anazindua Pauline, kesho anazindua Elijah, kesho anazindua Mwangi. Lakini nirudi kwa Bwana Patrick Osoi. Kumekuwa na mvutano kidogo wa siasa za Mlima Kenya na rais kutokana na kuondolewa mamlakani kwa aliyekuwa naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua. Lakini tumeona kwamba rais ameenda eneo lile. Okay, kuna wale wanasema kwamba ilikuwa ni ziara ya kisiasa, wapo wanaokubali kwamba ilikuwa ni ziara ya maendeleo, na kuna miradi mbalimbali ambayo ilizinduliwa maeneo yale. Je, ile miradi ambayo ilizinduliwa katika eneo lile la Mlima Kenya na kiongozi wa taifa itabadilisha hali ya wale wakazi wa Mlima Kenya kisiasa kwa Rais Ruto?
Wacha nisungumze haya na kwa wale wananisikiza. Watu ambao wanatoka Mlima Kenya ni watu ambao si watu kama wengine. Nikiomba kusema wacha nisungumze. Unajua katika kabila lote Kenya, kila kabila liko na sehemu yake ya kispeciali. So watu wa Mlima Kenya nataka nisungumze na nikueleze kuwa si watu ambao unaweza ona mwelekeo wao kwa leo. Ni watu wananyamaza, wanatulia tu, lakini wanaamka siku moja wote kwa ujumla wanapiga kura mahali pamoja. So ile kitu ambayo ilioko kuwa that pesa ambazo zimetumika pale Mount Kenya, pesa ulisikia pesa zilitembea. Na pesa kutembea inamaanisha kuwa hizo pesa zingetumika kwa mambo mengine. Labda pale Mheshimiwa Kitura alikuwa na mambo mengine imekita pale, kuna project 2-3, kuna classrooms pale zingekuwa zifanyike. So naomba kama zile pesa zingeelekezwa kwa wale watu ambao ama viongozi ambao wanatoka katika zile sehemu, wapewa ile budget, because president atabei na gari moja kama mimi ama gari mawili. Anapea na gari kadhaa na watu kadhaa. So budget ya kwenda Mlima Kenya, hata naomba siku tufanye analysis tuone ni pesa ngapi zilitumika. Utashangaa sana pesa ambazo zilitumika ni pesa angazi zingetumika kwa counties zingine hapa sijalipa wafanyikazi. Kuna counties zimelipa wafanyikazi juzi 2 months. Wafanyikazi wa serikali wako wamelipwa pesa.
Lakini uzembe wa magavana.
Si uzembe wa gavana. Manake rais wetu William Ruto amechukulia majukumu yote kama ni ya rais peke yake. Ile devolvement ama ile vile serikali inapaswa kufanya kazi. Wacha nieleze wale ambao wajui. Kuna kitu inaitwa decentralization. Decentralization inamaanisha unawaachia wale watu kitengo chao wafanye kazi na wanapewa bajeti yao. Kama ni report ya maendeleo inapelekwa kule bungeni. And I want to say that within the provisions of Article 132, the president has the leeway kwenda kule bungeni na kusikiza ama wale watu ambao wanataka kumuona rais anataka kuja kwao. I won't say that is very demeaning kusema that mimi nataka rais akuje kwetu, ambapo katika decentralization hata rais ama tupaswa kujua kama tuna serikali ambao inatumia tuseme our constitution today. It is the work of the president to protect him in the constitution today, which he does not. 2, it is the work of the president actually to be the end of the state and the government. It is the work of the government, the work of the president also kuwa ambaye ni amri jeshi mkuu. Yani yale mambo ambapo president anapaswa kufanya. Nikisema hivi nasema kuwa tuko na udhoofu kidogo katika siara zetu ama in our diplomatic status today. Hizo ndio kazi ambazo serikali ama president wetu anapaswa kuwa akifanya. Mambo ya kwenda kuzidua mirandi, kwenda kule Mount Kenya, budget ya pesa ambazo zimetumika ni pesa mingi ambazo pesa zingetumika kufanya maendeleo mengine.
Rais angekuwa anakaa tu ofisini peke yake pia mngesema.
Wacha niseme hivi kukaa ofisini kusema ukweli si kumaanisha ama mbunge pale akifanya kazi. Let me tell you, when a member of parliament atafanya kazi ama governor akifanya kazi, equally kama mimi president, manake mimi ndio kiongozi wa ule mbunge. So as long as I'm able to dispense my authorities from where I sit and this development being taken to the lowest ward level, mimi kama rais wa Kenya nitakuwa nimefanya kazi. Lakini tukisema rais atembee from ward to constituency to county to level zingine, ni kudunisha.
Shikilia hapo. Rais mtazamaji, asipotembea watu watasema rais. Kuna wakati wa fulani rais wa 4 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya Uhuru Kenyatta alikosekana kidogo, watu wakaanza kuuliza rais yuko wapi, rais yuko wapi. Lakini pia kumbuka katiba ipo wazi kwamba rais ni symbol of national unity.
Kabisa.
Wacha tusikilize Mheshimiwa Kitura.
Wacha kwanza niseme ningetaka hawa ndugu zangu Daktari John Mukundi na ndugu yangu Patrick Osoi kwanza wa declare kwa sababu they didn't give proper declaration. je, wana mpango wa kuomba kiti cha chochote cha uongozi katika sehemu tofauti ya Kenya hii? Kwa sababu siku hizi imekuwa fashion kwamba ukiapia katika media, oppose the government, oppose the president. Anza tu hiyo maneno namna hiyo. Kwanza kabisa haswa katika sehemu fulani ya nchi hii. Ningetaka niregee pia katika mambo ambayo nilisikia John daktari hapa akinena kwamba kuna sehemu tofauti ambapo pengine rais alienda akafungua hizo project ama kuna kitu kuzindua na kuna kuinspect. Kuona kwamba juzi kuna viongozi walikuwa wanaongea katika studio tu kama hili. So and he was cornered because alikuwa anasema ni lile project tu rais alikuwa ameenda siku ile kwenda kuzindua ndio alikuwa pale. Lakini alipoulizwa vizuri ikaonekana kwamba the project was almost at 40-50% ikiendelea. And there are some things that rais alikuwa anataka pia jione. Yale pesa tuna appropriate hapa Nairobi, je, inaendelea? Ile promise nilikuwa nimepea watu, je, inaendelea? Tusisahau kuwa pia tuko katika miaka miwili, tunaelekea miaka 3 sasa katika mambo ya uongozi. Kuna mambo mengi rais amesema kwamba by 2027 I'm coming to inspect now, but by 2027 let it be ikuwe record yangu yenye mnakuja kuassess. Ya tatu ningetaka niseme kwamba pia katika mambo ambayo Patrick amesema, naona bado uko na uchungu sana Patrick. Unajaribu kuingizidia uko na uchungu hapo nayo. Akiongelea kwamba hata rais ile pesa rais angekuwa akitembea nayo, angekuwa akitumia kama fare kutembea kule na timu yake hiyo kidogo. By the way, this is the presidency that has reduced even the team that they work with. But that notwithstanding, yeye amesema kwamba magavana ama county government hata pesa hawajalipa pesa juzi ya salaries. Ningetaka nikueleze Patrick, vile serikali ufanya kazi ni tofauti sana from the private sector. Sisi kama wabunge we appropriate money, tunawapea kama ni counties tunawapea pesa zao. So itakuwa ni treasury kuja kupitisha tu hizo pesa. The relationship of the national government and county government is quite distinct. Ningetaka sasa nikuja kwa hoja hili ambalo linaendelea, na nikisema kwamba unakumbuka kwamba kuna viongozi ambao walikuwa wanapigiwa kelele katika sehemu tofauti. Mimi mwenyewe ni mwanasiasa. Na hiyo maneno tunaelewa vile kuipanga. Wakati fulani unaenda pale kulipo watu 2-3 because wanatumianga imagery. That is why we are discussing now. You go to the ground, lipo watu 3 wapige nduru, wapige picha, hiyo inakuwa conversation today. Ningetaka niombe nyinyi viongozi kutoka kule mlimani, wakati unapewa maji nusu, usione the empty part, ona kwamba kuna maji nusu. To appreciate yale ambayo serikali inafanya, to support the government of the day. Tukifika pale mbele tutakuwa na scorecard. Na hapo sasa ndio unamwambia mtakufuta kazi not on the basis kwamba wewe ni mkabila ama wewe unatoka sehemu fulani, ama kuna hii issue yenye imeanza kuonekana where it is being thought like kama uongozi hajatoka sehemu fulani ya nchi hii, then wale ambao wote wanaongoza katika hiyo ile hawafai kuwa wanakuwa uwezo wa kuongoza. Lakini nonetheless bado mimi nashukuru sana kwamba kulikuwa rais alikuwa ametembelea mlimani on the basis of development. Lakini katika hiyo basis ya development kuna kuanga na mambo ya uongozi. Nilirudia tena, siasa ni vile mali inavyokawa. Nataka nimalizie pia nikisema kwamba mlimani, ukiona katika bajeti ya nchi hii, na hili ni jambo ambalo nimekuwa nikisema kwa muda, bado mko privilege kwa sababu serikali zilizopita walikuwa na appropriate pesa mingi, na rais ameendelea kumalizia zile project zote zilikuja kule nyuma. Hata mabajeti zote unaona bajeti kubwa bado inaenda kule mlimani. Hii ni kuonyesha kwamba rais anataka aache project yote yenye ilikuwa imehang pale. And it is true. Previous governments haikuwa fair katika ukavi.
Okay. Asante. Nirudi kwako Daktari John Mukundi. Watu wa Mlima Kenya wanajulikana sana kwa kilimo, hususan cha kahawa, chai, miraa na vile vile pia mifugo kama maziwa. Je, unahisi kwamba haya matatizo ambayo mmekuwa nao katika Mlima Kenya katika ziara ya rais hivi majuzi, kuna moja ambalo liliangaliwa vizuri paka nyinyi mkaridhika?
Kitu cha kwanza kwanza niseme ya kwamba vile mheshimiwa amesema ni vizuri.
Ndio.
Na wanaweza sema tulisaidika kwa sababu ya perhaps vile budget ugawa pesa. Lakini ni vizuri pia mheshimiwa aelewe ya kwamba tukiangalia pia utajiri wa taifa hili, the GDP ile kubwa, it is contributed by Mount Kenya. Hiyo ambayo tunasema. Kwa hivyo it is logic hata kwa biashara uweke pesa zako mahali ambapo unatoa zingine. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri ya kwamba waelewe ya kwamba si ati tunapatiwa hivyo sababu ati there is favor ama juu president wawili wametoka kwetu ama watatu. Hiyo ni kumaanisha ya kwamba kuna kitu ambayo tuna contribute. na hata wao fertilizer hiyo mingi naonanga ikienda pia na huko, kwa sababu na huko ndio food basket. Kwa hivyo ninajua kwamba hiyo ni kitu ambayo inafaa. Nikirejelea swali lako ni kwamba mambo ya kahawa, na ndio sababu ninasema hili lilikuwa jambo la siasa, haikuwa development. Mambo ya kahawa, mambo ya manjani chai, mambo ya miraa, hakuna kitu yoyote tunaweza sema ziara ya rais ilileta. Njuu akija huko already vitu kama kahawa zilikuwa already tulikuwa aswa kwa manifesto yake ya Kenya Kwanza tulikuwa tumeambiwa kitu ambayo tutapata minimum guaranteed returns. Na unaona ya kwamba hata hizo minimum guaranteed returns hakukuja kutuambia amefikisha wapi. Hizo ndizo zile vitu ambayo watu wa mlima wanataka.
Lakini daktari, kabla hujaendelea mbele, kumradhi kukata, unakumbuka kwamba mheshimiwa aliyekuwa naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua yeye ndo alitwikwa jukumu la kuangalia sekta ya kahawa.
Alitwikwa jukumu la kuangalia sekta ya kahawa. Alafu wambunge wetu akaenda kwa mbunge, tulisikia rais akisema wakamngatua mamlakani kabla hajamaliza kazi ambayo anapatiwa. Hiyo ni kumaanisha kwamba kama wangempatia perhaps nafasi angemalizia. Na hatukuona handing over enough yenye imefanywa ili tuone huyu naibu wa rais mwingine ambaye amekunja akiendeleza hiyo kazi. Kumaanisha hiyo ni kitu ambayo imekatwa na ni kitu ambayo haiendelei. Kwa hivyo ninaona ya kwamba mambo ya ukulima haikushughulikiwa vizuri. Na ujue kama mlima Kenya ile kitu ambayo huwa tunatazamia sana ni ukulima. Haswa ukulima wa manjani chai, ukulima wa maziwa, ukulima wa kahawa, ukulima wa miraa. Hizo vitu zote ndizo ambazo zinatupatia vitu pesa mfukoni. Saa hata president akikuja atuambia kwamba kuna pesa mfukoni, si pesa zile ambayo waliweza kumobilize watu. Njoo pesa mingi sana zilitembea. Ndio sababu ninasema ya kwamba
ulipata wewe, ulipata daktari.
Niko na marafiki ambao walipata. Niko na marafiki wengi sana ambao walipata.
So rais aendelee kuja.
Rais hata akiendelea kuja, tunaendelea kusaindika na njia hiyo. Lakini unajua hata tukisaindika na njia hiyo sio adequate enough na sio njia mzuri. Ile njia mzuri ambayo tungetaka watu wasaindike ni kwamba tuko na njia mzuri ya marketing our products, agricultural product. Tuko na njia mzuri ambayo inaweza tupatia pesa mfukoni. Saa hii ninasikia kwamba wanasema inflation ilikuwa 9 sijui what, wakaileta 3.6. Na hata wakiileta chini inflation, tunajiuliza juu inflation imekunja chini, ninaambiwa unga imeletwa chini. Niko na pesa ya kununua hiyo unga. So there is something you need to consider. Pia kitu inaitwa pesa zenye zinakuwa kwa mfuko. Ile household ziko na hiyo income ya kununua hizo vitu. Kwa hivyo hayo ni baadhi ya mambo ambayo mwananchi anataka. Si kukuja kutuambia tu unga iko chini. Si enough tu kukuja kutuambia tumefanya, tumezindua. Sasa hata ukizindua barabara na saa hiyo pay slip yangu mahali ilikuwa juu imeenda chini, what is the reason? Kwa hivyo mimi situmii barabara. Kitu ya kwanza ni basic need ya kukula. Kitu ya pili tuende.
Daktari, unatumia ndege? Nasema utumii barabara.
Ndio ninasema mbele ya nitembee ni lazima nikuwe na nguvu ya kutembea. Kwa hivyo chakula kwanza.
Si chakula iko kule kwa mashamba daktari. Na mtazamaji, ni saa 2 na dakika 40. Niko nao ndugu zangu hapa ndani ya studio, Daktari John Mukundi ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, nuku vile niko naye vile pia mchanganuzi mwingine wa masuala ya kisiasa ndugu Patrick Osoi, na tuko naye mheshimiwa mbunge wa Nandi Hills Bernard Kituru, tukiangalia tu ziara ya Rais Daktari William Ruto kule Mlima Kenya miezi 6 baada ya kuondolewa mamlakani kwa aliyekuwa naibu wake Rigathi Gachagua. Je, ziara ile imeleta manufaa ama bado kilio cha wenyeji kipo? Nikirudi kwako ndugu Osoi, tumezungumzia sana kuhusu kuzindua. Swali ni je, hii miradi ambayo serikali inazindua inafaa kukamilika lini ndio mwananchi afurahie? Kwa sababu swala kubwa hapa, mbona rais itakamilika lini?
Wacha niseme hivi. Na ni jambo la kuhusunisha sana. Sijui Rashid, mara ya mwisho uliona director wa hii kampuni ama hii KBC hapa ni lini?
Yuko kila siku.
Yuko kila siku. Anakuja kwenye studio kila siku.
Ofisini, kazini kwake ni ofisini, huku studio ni sisi watangazaji.
Yeah, so ile kitu napaswa kumaanisha ni kuwa at times unaweza fanya kazi mahali na usije ukaona ule mkubwa wako, lakini mambo inafanyika. Kitu cha pili, nataka nieleze mbunge wetu Kituru hapa, Nandi Hills, that kuwa mimi nikuwa kijana, nimefanya kazi katika nyanja mbalimbali na wabunge huwa tunawapea nafasi kidogo katika National Intelligence Academy kuwafunza mambo mawili matatu ambayo yeye anaelewa kama mbunge. So nadhani tutaongeza bidii kuwafunza kabisa mambo ambao vile serikali inapaswa kuendeshwa. I think ile wakati tunawapea ni muda kidogo sana. Nasema hivyo kwa sababu mimi nimefanya kazi katika our National Intelligence Service na nimefanya kazi katika jeshi letu kuu na nataka kusema sasa hivi tukizungumza jeshi letu mahali mimi niliacha si mahali lipo. You can imagine today our militaries today hawana hata pesa ya chakula, zimeondolewa. Tuseme wameelezwa kuwa chakula ambao walikuwa wanapewa hawatakuwa wanapewa today, kwa sababu tuna ile mambo tunapata kutoka kule, manake once a military will remain a military or ile kitu naweza sema katika National Intelligence Service leo pia mambo na pesa ambazo zilikuwa zinapeanwa kwa wajasusi wetu kwenda kufanya kazi vile inavyotakikana, hizo pesa haziko ama zinachelewa ama hazipo kabisa. So nasungumza hivi nikiwa na idhini ama nikiwa na nguvu ama nikiwa na foundation ya mtu ambaye amefanya kazi pale. So sizungumzi kitu ambao nimeokota kwa barabara. So pesa ambazo tunaona zikitupwa kule na hapa na kule, kuna mambo mengi sana ambao gaps mingi sana ambao imefanyika. Mimi sina habari na sinataka kujua aswa, na mimi simpigi Rais William Ruto, napiga mambo ambao inafanyika ambao ipaswa kufanyika. Sasa hivi umeona pia askari wetu wa National Intelligence Service, CDF, the Inspector General of Police actually addressing political in this country. They do not. I wonder that wale watu ambao amepea kazi pale ni watu wa yes men. Yes sir, yes sir. So wale watu wamefanya rais kukua kama mtu ambaye aelewi ama jielewi ama aelewi ile kitu anapaswa kufanya. So nikizungumza leo nataka nisungumze kwa wazi kuwa that rise kuna mambo ambayo ni priorities. There is no emergency, there is no priorities kusema kuwa ninaenda kufanya supervision. Actually in our provision, the provision of our constitution that does not even say that our president is the oversight ya kuangalia project katika nyanja mbalimbali katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. So ninaomba kuwa that kama njia ambazo wanatumia na njia ambao wabunge wanakaa chini ambao wamekuwa yes men pale bungeni, umeona wananchi wameenda wamesema tutaki hiki, wabunge wanapitisha hatutaki kile. Yani pesa zimekuwa kibaumbele katika nchi yetu ya Kenya that we cannot make sober decisions for the people of this country. Na inahusunisha sana mimi kama kijana ambaye nitakuwa miaka mingi, in the next 30 years I will be almost now the age ya wale watu ambao sasa hivi wako mbele. Ndio maana nasema vijana, tafadhali, kama tunataka serikali ambayo inatosha, serikali ambayo tunasema inataka itufanyie kazi sisi wenyewe, tuende kule bungeni. Manake wale watu wa yes men na mambo hii ya siasa na mambo ya chama pia imewaleta kazi mingi sana. Ule mbunge wetu huyu sasa Bernard Kituru, ukimuuliza sasa kama anaweza simama na chama kingine kule kwake ndiye apite, hawezi. Atasimama na chama ambacho kiko na kinaegemea kabila lake ama kinaegemea region ile. So we want to come to a point whereby wale watu wanachaguliwa kwenye bunge, ijalishi umetoka chama gani, umetoka sehemu gani, ndio uwe na uhuru kwenye bunge, uwe na uhuru ya kuweza kuelekeza serikali jinsi inapaswa kufanya kazi.
Asante. Tupate kauli yake Mheshimiwa Bernard Kituru, na muona anatabasamu kwa mbali kabisa.
Nataka nishukuru sana kwa hayo maono ya ndugu zangu Daktari John na ndugu yangu Osoi. Ningetaka niregelee tu jambo mawili matatu kwanza yenye Daktari John amesema hapa. Kwanza kabisa ningetaka niseme kwamba rais nimekuwa na fursa mara kadha wa kadha ku engage na one on one. And I can tell you ni binadamu kama mimi na wewe, ana roho kubwa sana, ana mapenzi. Ningetaka niwaambie ndugu yangu aswa daktari hapa kutoka Mlimani kwamba sisi tunapenda mlima. As a community of Kenya, we are all one community as Kenyans. We are one. Na kwa hivyo wakati
Good morning, Ibrahim. We welcome you to this interaction session. Asanteni.
Thank you. So we ask you to introduce yourself, briefly give us your profile.
Kuna mambo mengi yamebadilishwa katika even wakati naibu wa rais. Some of the radical measures imefanya. Jana nilikuwa katika ofisi ya Commodities Authority penye inasaidia sana nini ya kahawa na machani na nini na sugarcane. Na walikuwa wananieleza vile pesa mingi sana ilikuwa imeletwa pale, but there's going to be a merging between commodities na AFC kuweza kuweka yote pesa pamoja. Lakini part of the things rais alifanya ni kufutilia mbali madeni ambayo ilikuwa imekuwa incurred, and most of it actually hata ukiona ilikuwa inatoka katika mlimani. La tatu, kumekuwa na hii pesa cherry fund. Ukiona pesa mingi hapa ilimetolewa kusupport coffee. Yote ni sana ona the percentage mingi natoka mlimani, but we support because mlimani utusaidia sisi wote kama nchi hii yetu pia kupata taxes. So I just wanted to tell daktari hapa kuna mambo mingi that we need to appreciate. Hata juzi rais alikuwa anauliza community ya Meru pale, akawaambia wakati mmekuja kwangu mmeniambia market yenu kubwa ni kule Somalia, na mkaniambia mnataka mbalozi ama wale ambao wanaparticipate katika I think balozi or something aende kule, na akasema mliniitisha nikawapea, kuonyesha kwamba kuna matakwa mingi ambayo pia rais alienda kuconfirm kwa watu, mliniomba hayo na hayo na hayo. Hiyo ndio tumefanya, lakini mimi nataka nikupe ishara kwamba by most of these reforms yenye mnafanya, it does not work like unafanya leo na kesho imeonekana, but there is continuous changes. Hata katika KPCU mpaka the new KPC kulikuwa na cartels kule. Hata Rikiji mwenyewe alikuwa anasema that is why we have to do heavy lifting kubadilisha Kenya hii. Pia ndugu yangu hapa amesema pia kuhusu kwamba rais amekuwa pale lakini watu hawana money to spend, na umeongelea mambo ya unga. Wewe unajua vizuri daktari, wakati tumekuja katika uongozi watu walienda kwa streets. Kwa sababu gani? Wakati fulani wakiwa wamevaa sufuria kwa kichwa. Kwa sababu gani walikuwa wamevaa sufuria kwa kichwa? Hakukuwa na ugali kutengeneza. Kwa sababu gani? Unga ilikuwa juu. Wewe na mimi tunajua. Lakini some of the radical plans serikali ilifanya kutokesea fertilizer na encourage farmers wapande. Size to honor the statistics, there is almost doubling of maize. What is that got to do with the country? The prices ya vitu imekuja chini. Sasa hata ile pesa kidogo uko nayo, hata kama ni kidogo, you can be able to afford a meal. Ningetaka ni respond. Hata wakati rais haya ametembea, one of the things amekuwa akifanya hata kwangu mimi Nandi Hills, he came to Nandi Hills, wakati alitembea Nandi Hills, akaona market yenye nilikuwa nimepewa, ilikuwa market kidogo. Tukamweleza rais, look at the whole of this population, and indeed he agreed and said, can we have a renewed discussion? Kwa sababu gani? Akasema we need a market yenye ni kubwa sana, yenye iko na stores, iko na cold rooms, iko na mahali penye malori inasimamia, kuna mahali ICT space katika pale, kuna mahali wa mama watakuwa wakiweka watoto wao ama kusaidia watoto wao katika kunyonya. What is the president doing about mwanabiashara kawaida? Ku provide an environment penye yeye anaweza fanya kazi. That is what now the president, mkisikia kwamba rais anasindua various markets in various places. Alikuja Nandi Hills, akaona ile nilikuwa nimepewa, amenipea kubwa yenye hata mimi nilikuwa nataka vile, a sufficient one, because that is it's a very big town, but those who came could not be able to say unless the time we spoke. Now nataka nimalizie nikisema kwamba kwa Patrick ame-mention kwamba
sekunde tu, dakika zinakimbia.
Ningetaka niseme kwamba kuna wale viongozi ambao juzi walipeana tu their notion, their thoughts kutoka NIS na CDF. Ni kweli kwamba sometimes hata hao pia ni wazazi, hao pia ni community members, but they are, you know, wherever they are, I would say that they should never get involved katika mambo ya siasa. Lakini they also have the opinion. Kama ni NIS director ama ni CDF boss, they are also parents, they are community members of this country.
Asante, turudi kwake daktari sasa. Daktari, kuna kitu ulikuwa unaona kama unataka kumvamia mheshimiwa. Lakini daktari, tuangazie hili. Watu wa Mlima Kenya wanadai kwamba rais kidogo amewa short change. Lakini nikuulize wewe Daktari Mukundi, sisi ni wafanyikazi wako, wewe ndio boss wetu. Lakini sisi tunakiuka maadili yako, tunakiuka sheria zako, utatubakisha hapa kwenye kazi?
Ni vizuri kwanza tujue mambo yale ambayo mnakiuka. Kwa sababu unaweza kiuka kitu ambayo inafaa kukiukwa. Sababu sio kila mtu ambaye anakuanga spotlessly clean. Kwa mambo yote ambayo ninaweza fanya, perhaps kuna kitu ambayo pengine kama nyinyi ni wafanyikazi wangu, mnaweza kuwa mna point moja kwa moja, mnasema hata kama tunaendelea kuna kitu fulani hapa inafaa kuangaziwa. Na kwa hivyo nafikiria hata kama nyinyi ni wafanyikazi wangu, kama kuna kitu ambayo ninafanya ambayo ninafaa pia kupata hiyo feedback ambayo mtanipatia. Sasa ninaona mimi especially kama hii serikali watu wanjui kazi yao. Ukisikia vile mbunge anasema hapa, anasema ni kama president anafaa kwenda kuinspect miradi ya maendeleo. Miradi ya maendeleo kazi ya MPs, na tunalipa MPs pesa mingi sana, wamejiongezea mingi sana. Tunafaa kuuliza hiyo kazi yao ni kazi gani? One of the work, 3 main activities za MPs inakuanga oversight, ikiwa ya kwanza inakuwa legislation na inakuwa representation. Kama wao hawawezi tuangalia hiyo miradi, wanafanya nini hiyo mbunge? Situfunge mbunge tukue na rais peke yake akuwa anafanya hiyo kazi. Hiyo ni kitu ya kwanza ambayo ningetaka kusema. Na yeye rais kazi yake haswa ni gani? Kazi yake ni hiyo maneno. Kama Hassan, ninahurumia hii Kenya sana. Sababu ukiangalia saa hii Kenya iko kwa campaign mood. Tumetoka tu kwa campaign the other day. Kila mtu sasa ni siasa. Tutafanya kazi lini? And that is it. Tutafanya kazi lini? Ukiangalia mambo ya mambo hiyo anasema ya economy, miss, nilikuwa nataka kumrudishia hivi. Nimwambia kwamba shinda si bei kurundi chini, hiyo tunakubali. Mnakubali iko sawa. Hiyo iko sawa na tunaunga rais mkono kabisa. Si kuagi tu peke yake. Lakini ile kitu tuko nayo ni kitu ambayo inaitwa disposable income. Disposable income niko na hiyo pesa ya kununua hiyo kitu ambayo imerudishwa chini. Hiyo ndio swali ambalo nilikuwa nayo. That is where the problem is. Kwa hivyo mambo kama hayo ndio ninafikiria rais anafaa kuketi chini afikirie mambo ya economy. Anafaa kuketi chini afikiria mambo ya vile unasema ya kwamba is a symbol of national unity, afikiria mambo ya unity. Lakini tukianza kufikiria mambo ya impeachment ya deputy president ama ya kurudishia watu, mtu ananena hivi anabeba watu au wanjeshi ama ni polisi wanaenda nao kwa mikutano, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Na ndugu zangu, tuna dakika 6 tu, kila moja 2 tukimalizia, nikianza na Patrick Osoi.
So yangu niseme kuwa serikali yetu ama Kenya, kila mtu ambaye ni Mkenya, patriotic Kenyan, angetaka kuona Kenya ambao ni imeimarika. So kitu ambao napaswa kunasema sasa hivi ni kuwa that tumekuwa na Kenya ambao sijui kama watu wamezoeshwa pesa ama mambo yamekuwa namna gani. Na kitu ambao nataka nisindilie kabisa ni kuwa that kazi ambao watu wametiwa kufanya wafanye. Kitu cha pili, vijana wa Gen Z na vijana millennials, because the time and dispensation of leadership huwa ina matter. Mimi hata 2027 sitampiga William Ruto kwa sababu ya vitu amefanya majafanya. Nitampiga kwa sababu kitu cha kwanza, time and dispensation huwa ina matter. Hata katika mahali mheshimiwa Kituro ametoka atakwambia kuna age bracket ama age wanatemanga age generational change. Generation age set huwa anafanya na wanafuatilia sana kama kuna taifa ama kuna kabila ambayo inafuatilia kitu sana, ni watu wa kutoka kule Rift Valley and South Rift. So kitu cha pili, tuna haki ya kusupport the presidency ama the government of the day, but saa zingine natumai kuwa Mheshimiwa Kithure atatueleza kuwa that I'm not sure whether the president does not listen ama huwa namna gani, manake mambo ambayo anafanya ni kama anafanya mambo, anaamka leo anaamua mimi leo naenda kufanya kitu fulani. So sina naona ni kama kuna shida pale. Na ukisikiza manunguniko ambayo imekuwa na Mheshimiwa Muturi, Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, mimi nawafuatilia sana kwa sababu inaonyeshana kuwa kuna mambo mengi sana yanafanyika kule ndani ambayo yamfaidi Mkenya. So wacha tufanye mambo ambayo yanafaidi Mkenya na si mambo ya ubinafsi. Tuache ubinafsi.
Asante bwana Osoe. Ya bwana daktari, na wewe dakika zako 2 umalizie kabla tumaliza na bwana Kithure.
Vile ningesema ni hivi ya kwamba saa hii wanasiasa waende watufanyie kazi. Mambo ya siasa watarudi tena wakati wa siasa ukitangazwa. Kitu cha pili ni kwamba watu ambao weko leadership na kila mahali waelewe ya kwamba nyakati zimebadilika. Vile walikuwa wanafanya mambo hapo awali, waelewe ya kwamba mambo hayafanyiki hivyo. Vile walipiga siasa mwaka wa 2022, wasifikirie watapiga siasa hivyo. Mambo yamebadilika, na wakikataa kubadilika hiyo wave itapita na wao.
Mheshimiwa, your final thoughts.
Asante sana. Ningetaka niwaambie watazamaji wote na Wakenya kwa ujumla kwamba mzee Jomo Kenyatta hayati mzee alikuja akaongoza nchi hili na akaacha historia lake. Rais hayati mzee Moi alifanya vile, Kibaki namna hiyo, Uhuru akaja. Ningetaka niwaambie Wakenya wote wakati wa William Ruto atakapomaliza itakuwa historia ya Kenya ambayo imebadilika. Ombi langu kwenu nyinyi wote, tusupport hili serikali, tuliombe hili serikali. Tuko na rais ambaye ni mwerefu na anasikiza. Hakuna jambo ambalo rais, na ningetaka niseme ile Wakenya wote wasikize, hakuna jambo ambalo Rais William Ruto anafanya kabla haja involve sisi viongozi. Hakuna chochote kile huwa anatuita anasema mnaonaje hili ama lile. Kenya hili lita succeed, our country will succeed. Tukue na positive energy na tuipende nchi hili letu na tupunguze sana mambo ya ukabila. Kenya hili ni letu sisi wote.
Na mtazamaji, hayati Jomo Kenyatta aliongoza taifa la Kenya miaka 15. Hayati Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi akaongoza Kenya miaka 24. Hayati Stanley Emilio Mwai Kibaki akaongoza taifa la Kenya miaka 10. Uhuru Kenyatta akaongoza miaka 10. Sasa Rais William Ruto ni miaka 2 tunanusu. Tumpe nafasi akamilishe yale atakayokamilisha, na kama walivyosema viongozi, ikifika mwaka wa 2027 rais juzi alisema kama atakuwa ametosha mboga mumuongeze ndani ya sufuria, na kama hatotosha mboga basi mumpe mbegu, fertilizer na jembe, ana mashamba aende akalime. Kwa niaba ya wote ambao wamefanikisha kipindi hiki, itifaki yote itoshe kwamba imezingatiwa. Asanteni sana wapiga picha wangu hapa ndani. Elijah alisema yeye hataki mambo ya kinyozi. Asante Mwangi. Asante pia mwanadada hapa Pauline, na vile vile pia waelekezi upande wa pili wa redio na waelekezi upande wa runinga. Asanteni sana kwa kazi nzuri. Mtazamaji, mimi na wageni wangu tulikuwa tuwazungumza tu, lakini kazi kubwa imefanyika na watu ambao huwaoni. Hadi Ijumaa 4 ijayo kwenye kipindi sawa na hiki, kwa niaba ya wote waliofanikisha, asante Mheshimiwa Kithure, asante Daktari Mukundi, asante Bwana Patrick Osoe, naona unachapa kwenye t-shirt yako hapo. Inapendeza zaidi. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo. Asanteni sana.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest, each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Usafi umegawanyika sampuli mbili. At-taharatu al-ma'nawiyya ay al-qalbiyya, usafi wa kimoyo, na pia at-taharatu al-badaniyya al-hissiyya, bimaana usafi wa kimwili. Kwa sasa Muislamu lazima ajipambe na vitu hivi vyote viwili, aonekane ndani na nje, aonekane kuwa ni msafi.
Usafi wa moyo unapatikana kwa kumcha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kujiepusha na makatazo ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na vile vile pia kuondoa chuki, wivu na unafiki, ama mambo yote ambayo yanaweza kuharibu imani ya mtu.
This is Good Morning Kenya, and today being a Tuesday, it is all about health matters. We will be having a conversation on endometriosis. That is what we'll be talking about, trying to break the silence on endometriosis and just to spread the awareness on what exactly it is. And joining me for this conversation, I will begin with the lady on my far right. Her name is Emily Quira. Emily is an endo warrior. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vila.
All right, and right next to her, we have Dr. Charles Muteshi. Dr. Charles is an obstetrician, gynecologist, and a member of the Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have the both of you on set just to talk about this very needed conversation that is endometriosis. And you know, we've had such conversations a number of times, but just before actually we got on set, you can attest that we were speaking to someone who said they've never heard of that word. Yeah. Completely. Never heard of the word, not even like know what it is, but just the word. Yeah. So it's really a conversation that is needed. If we can begin with you, Doc, just defining what endometriosis is.
Thank you for having me here. I think I look at endometriosis as having two definitions. There is the scientific definition and there is the lay definition, which probably might resonate better with everyone. So the scientific definition is what we call presence of endometrial-like cells or tissue outside the womb lining. What that basically means is that you have, tissues or cells that looks very similar to where the menstrual flow comes from, but then they are situated in the wrong places. Yeah, but in most instances, patients will not know that, so they will want to relate with symptoms that they have that look like endometriosis. So majority of them will experience symptoms that coincide with periods, and a lot of times this will be pain. Pain can be painful periods,
or it could be pain in the bowels, it could be pain in the bladder, it could be pain in the lungs, and sometimes there can be pain in the belly button. So almost always when symptoms are coinciding with periods, they might mean that you have endometriosis. Yeah.
All right. Now for you, Emily, probably just beginning with, when exactly did you get to know about endo? Not knowing that you have endo, but when did you get to know about endometriosis?
Thank you, Vivian. So in 2012, that is like an year after I had my first baby, that is when I started having period pains. Sometimes they miss, sometimes they last up to 6 months. So I knew something was wrong, especially because of pain. I had so much pain, sometimes I couldn't move because one of my leg was numb and I couldn't move, like from the bed going to the bathroom was a problem. And what I felt was like I wanted to lay flat on the floor and on a cold floor. Then I feel a bit relieved, so I started visiting different doctors, and by that time I was just hoping it's just normal, because going back to the teenage years, we were told that it's normal to have period pains. In fact, there was a time some lady was told, okay, at school, she was asked, why are you sleeping? And then she was in so much pain, and then the matron was like, we all experience this pain, so why is your case? So now, years later, more than 10 years later, I came to realize that it was not normal. So I moved from one doctor to, like, I can say 10 doctors. Like the 10th doctor gave me hope, because he told me, based on the previous test, I'll not, I can tell it could be endometriosis. I'll not subject you to further tests, but we can go to the theater. You consent to having that surgery. It's called keyhole surgery. So that is when I decided, but it took me like a whole year to decide to go for the surgery, because I had lost hope. Yeah.
And this is now in the year around 2020. 2020.
Yeah.
You started experiencing the pain in 2012, but
In
you got
2012.
proper diagnosis in the year 2020.
Yeah, and
Wow.
in between I had seen 9 doctors.
Oh my.
So actually I had even told my family I'll not go to see any other doctor. Yeah, I had decided to go to Kenya, the Kenyeji way, but thank God I was a bit relieved. It was not, it was like a bitter sweet moment for me. Yeah.
Doc, why is this the case for many endo warriors? You know, I think every endo warrior I've gotten to interact with, it really took long before they got the proper diagnosis. You know, they go to hospital, but no one really tells them it's endometriosis. They're just given pain medications and whatnot. Like, it takes years. For her, it took almost more than 10 years, almost 10 years, you know. So just where exactly is the problem in this, and just how is endo diagnosed?
Yeah, I think the diagnostic journey of endometriosis is a real roller coaster for most patients, and that's not just here. It's a worldwide phenomenon. There've been many reasons for that, and you know, they are related to normalization of pain. A lot of individuals, you know, grow up socialized and thinking that having period pains is expected and is normal, but it's not the case. And of course, secondly, at the medical level, you have to think about something to make a diagnosis. So endometriosis does not have very classic or typical symptoms. So pain is one of them, but sometimes they are very non-specific symptoms, and you wouldn't start off by just doing an invasive test. So she's mentioned about a keyhole operation. It's called laparoscopy. And in the olden days, it used to be what we call the gold standard way of diagnosis endometriosis. However, that requires going to theater, it's got some risks, and it's not available everywhere. And so those were delays inherent in the diagnosis of endometriosis. And of course, in lots of other health systems, it requires referrals from your general practitioner to a specialist. And those systems, sometimes they are not foolproof. So currently there's been a lot of awareness, and a lot of countries are seeing a reduction in the overall duration of time from about 7 to 10 years to perhaps about 4 to 5 years. We are hoping that we can make diagnosis of endometriosis much earlier, because it's something that starts early in life. Lots of people think endometriosis develops later on, but we know that it starts as early as when you get into your adolescent or teenage years. So focusing on that group and using non-invasive ways of making a diagnosis. So you don't need to have a laparoscopy or an operation to have a diagnosis of endometriosis. Now we can do an ultrasound scan. There are cleverer tests that are coming up on the market.
You can tell from an ultrasound?
Yeah, you can do an ultrasound scan and see features of endometriosis. Not all forms of endometriosis will be seen, but a good amount of it will be seen. And now we have other techniques that may rely on either blood test or taking a swab from your cheek. They're not available locally, but that's the direction we are taking, and hopefully that will reduce the diagnostic delay.
Okay, so we know pain as one of the symptoms. Maybe what other symptoms can one look out for?
So, endometriosis, as I said from my definition, is that you get these cells that are sitting in the wrong place. And so it depends on which organ in the body they are sitting on. So if they are on your bladder, you will have discomfort or pain when you pass urine, commonly around your periods. They could cause pain or discomfort in your bowels. They can also affect you in terms of your mental health, so things like feeling low in your mood, bloating in your in your abdomen. And later on in life, there can be an association with delayed conception. So it's not the only cause of delayed fertility, but it can be a symptom. But all in all, I think because it has very non-specific symptoms, it is upon all those involved in the care of these ladies to think about endometriosis when the symptoms are persistent. So I think the key word will be that if symptoms are not going away, despite conventional treatments for common ailments, then one has to start thinking, am I dealing with something else?
And the fact that we've really normalized period pain, like it's the usual, I know when it's time for my periods, I should expect pain. So when is it, when should it be alarming? Or would you just say, as long as you get to experience pain during your periods, go get checked? That's the only way that you get to know if it's endometriosis or it's just the cramping of, from menstruation, right?
Yeah, I think anything that causes discomfort should warrant, a medical checkup, unless it's not really bothering you. But if it's really bothering you, like she said, she felt like having to lie on the floor on a cold surface. I mean, that's not normal. It's disruptive. So if you find you've got symptoms that are really disturbing you and they're persistent, then they have to be looked into.
All right. I'll get to you, Emily, so that you can just take us through your journey now after the diagnosis. But before we talk about that, I would love us to get to understand the risk factors, Doc.
Yes.
What are the risk factors? What are the causes?
So we are only starting to understand a little bit about endometriosis, and that's what has been frustrating for many years, that we don't know what causes it. But we know, one, there is a strong familial association. So if you've got a relative who has endometriosis, you probably have 6 times more chances that you might be diagnosed with endometriosis, especially if you have symptoms. If you don't have symptoms, maybe you don't have to worry. It's now common that girls get their periods very early in life. So we do know that very short cycles, frequent periods are very heavy. When they come early, they might be a risk factor for endometriosis. Of course, those who have not had a baby, perhaps they might be at a higher risk, because endometriosis could also increase the chance you know, subfertility. Yeah, but I think it's not everybody who has the classical risk factors who may develop endometriosis. And similarly, you know, you don't look and say, yeah, because I don't have this type of risk factors, I may not have endometriosis. I think the key would be, if you're symptomatic, then it's important to get checked, because even when we think you've got risk factors, we don't have a way in which we can prevent.
There's no way to prevent it.
No.
Okay. All right. So, Emily, now I want you to take us through your journey now after you got the diagnosis. Of course, you've been experiencing the symptoms from earlier on, you know, from the year 2012. You've just been in pain, but you don't really know what exactly you're ailing from. So when you got the diagnosis now, how does life change from there? And did the doctor get to tell you maybe what your cause for it may have been? Because I'm sure you asked, you know, like, why did I get this? You know, is there a reason behind it? Is there something I did? I know there are all those questions, so just take me through that.
Thank you, Vivian. So first, let me just mention, the doctor doesn't tell you like the cause, because up to now there is no sure cause of the condition. So when I was told I had endometriosis, first, as I mentioned, I was relieved. Then second, I was just taken through, it was kind of a therapy on how to manage, because once the doctor tells you there is no cure, now you have to manage the condition. You have to change your lifestyle, you have to change your diet. Sometimes you have to work out, and by working out, you can do light exercises, which are not easy because there's pain. And let's say if you lift just some small weight, it could cause pain on your pelvic area. So nothing is easy. Then when you're told, you're advised to change your diet, you like keep off all your favorite things. You can't do dairy. So dairy means even if you love ice cream, you can't have. You have to avoid wheat. There are a lot of things that cause inflammation. So you have to either listen to the doctor, or you go the other way, which is just continue with your lifestyle, and pain becomes your new normal. And that means when you take medication for pain, you'll just become relieved for a few, maybe hours, then you go back there. And trust you me, that pain medication is very expensive. Yeah. And something else, I had to, it affected even my productivity at work.
Your day-to-day.
Yes, I thank God my employer intervened, and they supported me, because somewhere along my journey, I went into depression, because I was like, you're told you have this condition, it's not curable, you're in so much pain, and the only thing that will relieve your pain is the laparoscopic surgery. And the same doctor advised me that it could grow back. But it was not a good news for me, but I had to live with it. So at work I made a request, which I'm thankful that they listened to me. But now the psychotherapy was not easy. Actually, I went for the sessions for 2 years, but it helped me, because at some point you become suicidal. Because you lose hope, you lose friends. Friends invite you to places you cannot go, because you accept the invitation, but on that morning, your body, your body will just act up, and you will not be able to move. Now, explaining to someone who does not understand what you're going through is not easy. For endometriosis, you find that we are all created differently. my pain is different from the other person's. I could be in stage 4. The other person could be in stage 2, but they have so much pain than
stage
me.
4, yeah.
Yeah, so we are all different, and but I believe changing of some habits and lifestyle, okay, it worked for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Doc, she's talked about, you know, the fact that she got into depression.
Mm.
You know, so when you're even treating, you know, patients of or rather endometriosis patients, is mental wellness something you also like? Is it done side by side? Is it something that you advise that, you know, even as we treat this patient, she needs to be seeing maybe a therapist or whatever? Is that something you advise?
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's at the forefront of the approach to management, because you're meeting someone who's been battling pain for many years, so you know you can only be stretched so much, and they are commonly at the end of their tether. Yeah, so the focus on management should actually be the individual. You're not really chasing to treat a disease, so you're also not labeling them to be a disease. Yeah, whereas they have a diagnosis, the focus is on managing them. And the common approach to looking after patients with endometriosis is to form a team, you know, especially the very severe form of endometriosis, one that is complicated or caused other problems. You can't approach it by an operation. You know, you can't treat depression, for example, which is a feature of endometriosis, by doing laparoscopy. That is not the approach. Yeah, so we have to work within a framework where you prioritize the problems and you say, okay, you do have pain, we can manage your pain so you feel comfortable, but we realize that your mental health is not in a very good place. So in fact, let's not do the operation now. Let's make sure you feel well enough that you understand what is the outcome of this surgery, and you know exactly where you're moving from. Once we've done this to the next step, then we can work out. So the common approach that we tend to use in our institute is to say, what is the outlook in the next 2 to 5 years for you? Yeah, so what are we going to do stepwisely? So it's not, you know, let's do an ultrasound scan and then, oh yeah, we see endometriosis, let's jump on and do an operation. It might be part of it, but I believe that only about 80% of the management of endometriosis is not surgical. Maybe 20% might be amenable to surgery. The rest is beyond an operation. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that it's not preventable. Like, you can't prevent endometriosis. There's no known way of preventing it, right? But I'm sure there is ways of I'm assuming there's ways of trying to prevent it from now spreading and getting severe. Are there ways to prevent it from, you know, spreading? Because I've seen someone talk about, you know, the endo spread to, I don't know, the lungs, like, you know, it gets to spread. So is there ways of ensuring that you prevent it from spreading? It's already here, so we deal with where it is, like without the spreading.
Yes, so I think also, let me demystify that, right? Endometriosis is not like cancer that will move from one place to another. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
No, so individuals are unique. Each of them has got their diagnosis, and endometriosis may present with symptoms at any point in life. So you could have endometriosis on the belly button that does not cause any issue, but years later, you know, it pops up with symptoms similar to the lungs. You could have very mild symptoms initially, and then over the years, you know, it gets worse. And so it is important when you make a diagnosis, you know, to come up with a plan of managing. If surgery is one of them, then you have to remove that area of endometriosis, especially when it's causing problems. For example, if it's affecting bowel function, affecting the urinary system, affecting fertility, or pain is just intractable. Yeah, and then beyond that, then you have to manage and say, what are we going to do to make sure that we keep everything in check and you feel comfortable? You know, she mentioned about exercise. It's a very key component to managing chronic pain, whether it's because of endometriosis or other reasons. So once you get into such a regime, then you know, this is what I'm going to do. So it's a lifestyle change kind of approach. Yeah, but it does not spread.
It does not spread.
No.
So it just means it was there?
Yes,
It's not
everyone
like
is
it's-
different. So
Yeah.
you will have endometriosis that is originally where it was. It might have been quiescent, not causing you symptoms, but
Yeah.
later on you develop symptoms.
Yeah. Does it have different stages?
It does, and the staging for endometriosis that we have is mainly what is found in the pelvis. Yeah, so because it's originally a gynecology condition, and so the focus was on the gynecology impact of endometriosis. But now we know it is way beyond gynecology. So whereas we have the traditional staging, like she mentioned, you know, if you have very minimal disease, you will be in stage 1. And if you have very extensive disease, you'll be stage 4.
Yeah.
We do not know for certain whether someone moves from stage 1 to stage 4, or their disease is just aggressive from the beginning and they will be stage 4.
Oh.
So that again is not very clear. And some
Okay.
people might get resolution of symptoms with time. Yeah, so, but now we also know, as we get to understand more, there are other areas of endometriosis that are not part of that pelvic or gynecology, you know, restricted endometriosis, but they are not part of that stage. Yeah, so that's why we would say, where is the endometriosis? Is it in your lungs? Is it in the belly button? Is it from a previous operation? So you might have a very innocent cesarean section or surgery for something else. Then years later you notice, oh, there's a swelling on your scar, and then we discover it's endometriosis. So all that has to be looked into differently.
Okay. Emily, you got to undergo surgery, right?
Yeah.
At what point did you undergo the surgery? And after the surgery, would you say you've been a bit better?
Thank you, Vivian. Okay, after the first, I've had 2 surgeries. After the first surgery, which was more of a diagnostic procedure in 2020, I was relieved for, I can say, 2 years, because in 2023, okay, 2022, around December, that is when I started now experiencing similar symptoms. So now I noticed it had grown back. Yeah, so I had like 2 years. Then now I had to go for a second surgery. But I can say I was relieved for the 2 years. At least I could do things. I could run. I could go to the gym. I could do house chores. Yeah, just the simple tasks I could handle. But now after that, now I became, usually say, disabled in quotes, because it's a disability, but it's not visible. Yeah.
Okay. Doc, let's talk about recurrence. Like what happens, you know, like she was okay and then it recurred. After the surgery, 2 years later, it recurred. What can you tell us about the recurrence of endometriosis?
Yes, so it's because of several phenomena, and 2 main things usually happen with endometriosis, especially pain. One, if you've got chronic pain, then it tends to evolve into intractable, you know, what we call neuropathic or nerve-related pain that may even come when it's not triggered. You may move, someone touches you, you feel pain, you know, even going to the shower, you feel pain. So that's pain that is evolved, and it tends to evolve because the original cause of pain may not have been treated effectively. So if you don't treat pain effectively from the beginning, you can have it evolve into chronic pain. And when it comes back, it could be mislabeled as a recurrence, but it's just an evolution of pain that has become intractable. The second phenomenon usually relates to maybe incomplete excision. And it could be multiple factors. Either it was not noticed fully during the operation, or it was on a very delicate structure that, you know, the balance had to be made. You don't want to cut bowel or the ureter or a very critical organ or a blood vessel, and so that is left behind. But if it's not completely removed, there is a possibility that eventually it causes symptoms later on. So those are the 2 common phenomena where you might find a recurrence of symptoms.
All right. I'd love for you to clarify this. We've said endometriosis has no cure, right? It's like a lifelong thing. But then what are we removing when we do the surgeries? Aren't we removing the abnormality that is causing endometriosis? And when we do that, are we not curing it? Just kindly clarify that.
Yes, so that might actually be like an oxymoron. But I think if you look at the impact of endometriosis, it's commonly beyond just the endometriosis spots that you're going to remove. It is essential that when you do surgery, you have to remove that, because the burden of the symptoms come from what we call inflammation or scarring or chemical burns, because it produces substances that will cause internal inflammation or burning. So if you remove that, then you remove the burden of that, and that may not come back. And in a good number of patients, if they are only in a few places, they will feel much better. But if it's been present and causing pain for long, so you will remove the issue, and in 80% of the times, most patients will feel well. But there's this 20%, whereas you have removed the endometriosis, they've evolved into what I call chronic pain. Yeah, so the chronic pain phenomenon aspect of it is what we now have to focus on, and not just say, we have cured the endometriosis by removing the lesion. So it's beyond just the operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Emily, just checking your Instagram page, I have realized that you do advocacy on there. You talk about endometriosis time and again. Just tell me about, that you taking up that mantle and deciding, I want to speak about endo, I want to be one of the people who are spreading awareness on endometriosis. What exactly triggered that?
Thank you. I will say the first time I thought of raising awareness as an individual was, I realized most people don't even know the words. I've never heard of the word endometriosis. Even this morning, we met someone who's never heard of that word. So my objective was at least to make people know that this is something that exists. It's here with us, because it doesn't affect men directly, but you realize that all ladies have men in their lives. It could be a father, it could be a spouse, it could be a brother. So these are the people who we rely on to support us. So my aim was to just make people understand what this endometriosis is, because I had someone mention that it behaves like cancer, but I didn't get like what they meant, what exactly they meant. But I believe it's as much as it's not cancerous, but it behaves in a very weird way, because like for my case, where they had gotten the deposits during the first surgery was different from the second one. So mine is just to raise that awareness and make people know that endometriosis is here with us, and we have to accept and learn how to manage it, because mostly it's not even the medical solutions. It's mostly it's lifestyle and all that. But at least I'm happy that I've made impact I talk even to strangers. Some people contact me. Like currently there's a lady that we still in communication with, because she has had very bad depression. How can I say? So like depression has taken toll on her. So she mentioned something about like her family disowned her. She had very bad episodes with friends, because some people can even attack her, like directly. You cannot be invited to this baby shower because you don't have a child. And she was even told by a certain doctor who is a gynecologist. But let me just mention, not all gynecologists understand about endometriosis. Doctor can attest to that. Yeah, they have, I think, to have extra skills.
Okay.
So this lady was like, okay, I've been taking her through that. Okay, I'm not a counselor, but
at least you
at
understand
least when
her.
I talk to
Yeah.
her, she always tells me she feels a bit relieved. Yeah, but through talking to people, I've learned that there are so many myths.
Okay.
Some people are advised to get pregnant. Pregnant can cure.
Yeah.
Okay, that is not true. For me, I can say, doctor, that is true. That is not true, sorry. Because the person you're telling to get pregnant, you don't even know if they need kids.
Yeah.
You don't know if they can conceive.
Yeah.
So it creates more burden to them, than,
Actually,
yeah,
I'd
than
want
a
to pick-
relief.
Yeah, I would want to pick it from there. Doc, what is the impact of endometriosis on fertility?
So we do know that ladies who have endometriosis can have challenges getting pregnant, but majority of ladies, even those with endometriosis, would still get pregnant. And so it's always important from a medical perspective, if someone is not able to get pregnant, to have a full evaluation to establish the cause, because it's very easy to say, I was diagnosed with endometriosis and I don't have a child, and everyone says endometriosis has made it impossible for you to conceive, and it could easily have been your male partner. So a good number of ladies who are coming through the fertility clinics may have endometriosis, but it's not the only cause that may cause a delay. The good news is that majority of them, either through an operation, if there are no other additional factors, can conceive, or using advanced medical technology, we can overcome the subfertility.
Yeah. Are there any new treatments or research on endo that is really promising? At the
yes,
moment?
I think the scientific and medical community are not at ease at all, and we are working, day and night to try and understand the condition. The international community now is focusing a lot more on areas that are not addressed in previous studies, particularly in low and middle income countries. Ladies from the African subpopulation are very poorly represented in research. And so my center at Aga Khan is one of those that is now involved a lot in international collaboration. Next month, May, we're going to represent the continent in the World Endometriosis Congress in Sydney, just to bring our brains together to see. We've got a study that is underway on understanding the genetic predisposition of endometriosis. So obviously patients who think they could have endometriosis and those who've been diagnosed before are very welcome, so that we can understand more. On a different level, there's been a drug that is recently approved about 4 or 5 years ago that can be taken as a pill, and it does relieve the symptoms of endometriosis. Like you said, it's not a cure, but the pill has less side effects compared to the previous conventional medications, and we are hoping that the costs can come down and it's available to our patients here.
Amazing. So things are looking up.
Absolutely.
Hope is not lost. So for whoever may be having the condition, just hang in there, and a day at a time. I would love for you to give us your final remarks in very few words.
Okay, thank you. Mine will just be maybe to make an appeal to the government to invest more on women health. Now, this involves maybe that what doctor mentioned, international collaborations. Maybe there are countries, maybe like United States, that has more experienced doctors, so maybe they can invest on such, and centers that could, like government-funded centers that could handle endometriosis cases. Then something else which is could help a lot of ladies is subsidize the rates. Endometriosis is expensive because we have to manage with the pain medication, hormonal medication and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
then.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's all for now.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Doc, for joining us for this conversation. And thank you to you for accepting to come and, you know, speak about this. This is where we get to end this conversation on endometriosis. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuned in. Until next time, my name is Vivian Degwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Usafi umegawanyika sampuli mbili: at-taharatu al-ma'nawiyya ay al-qalbiyya, usafi wa kimoyo, na pia at-taharatu al-badaniyya al-hissiyya, bimaana usafi wa kimwili. Kwa sasa Muislamu lazima ajipambe na vitu hivi vyote viwili, aonekane ndani na nje, aonekane kuwa ni msafi.
Usafi wa moyo unapatikana kwa kumcha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kujiepusha na makatazo ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na vile vile pia kuondoa chuki, wivu na unafik, ama mambo yote ambayo yanaweza kuharibu imani ya
We're living in an era of mass extinction, one unmatched in the last 66 million years since the dinosaurs were wiped out. Over a quarter of all mammal species and 1 in 8 bird species are on the brink. But can AI help save them? Today on Shift. It is not only natural disasters and climate change that threaten wildlife. Poachers, for example, kill over 20,000 African elephants every year. Rangers in national parks have been struggling to prevent the practice, but Dutch non-profit organization Hack the Planet has developed an AI camera system to detect poachers and sound the alarm in real time. And a trigger warning: viewers might find some of the following imagery distressing.
African elephant populations have fallen drastically in the last century. One major cause: poachers. They want their ivory. To stop them, the non-profit organization Hack the Planet has found a way to modify their existing camera traps.
These cameras, we call them the dumb cameras. We make them smarter. So we modify them a little so that they are enabled to communicate with a box that we created. We manufacture these and make them able to communicate and send the photos wirelessly. And we analyze these photos using AI. So we have a machine learning algorithm on there that analyzes the photo, and then we immediately know what's on the photo, if it's a human or it's an elephant.
If a person is detected, an alert is sent to rangers immediately. This way, they can react quickly to potential poachers, which wasn't possible before.
These ranger units, oftentimes they just find an elephant carcass, and you know, then the poachers are already gone, like maybe 1 week or 2 weeks ago, and they don't have any information to go from, because they don't know where they came in or where they went out, because it's such a huge area.
The smart devices make it much more likely to catch intruders in real time. They work via satellite and don't need Wi-Fi. Countries like Gabon, Zambia, and Zimbabwe have already implemented the smart camera traps. For the endangered African elephants and those who protect them, the technology could mean the difference between life and death.
In India, elephants encounter different dangers too. Around 20 of them are hit and killed by trains every year. That's why an AI warning system is being installed along railroad tracks. Sensors identify vibrations on the ground caused by elephants and send warning signals to prevent collisions. It's undoubtedly an issue, but one dwarfed by the threat of global warming. 2023 was characterized by devastating fires around the world: Greece, Spain, Hawaii, Canada. In Australia, AI technology is now being used to help protect animals like the kangaroo and the koala from the effects of bushfires.
A koala is on the move under the cover of night. Just like these wallabies, the kangaroo's smaller cousin. For Australian wildlife conservationists, these images are a small victory. Using camera traps, they are trying to find out how well different animal species are recovering from bushfires.
So the camera detects the animals by a combination of movement and heat from the animals. So as the animal walks past the camera, usually around where the bait station is, it gets triggered and takes 5 quick photos of the animal as it comes past. Yeah.
Erin Greenville researches in the iconic Blue Mountains, west of Sydney. The area is a tourist draw, but is also prone to bushfires. That's why it was included in WWF Australia's large-scale camera sensor project, Eyes on Recovery. About 1,100 camera traps were installed all over the country, especially in areas damaged by the bushfires of 2019 and 2020. The cameras generate millions of photos. AI helps researchers analyze the data.
The artificial intelligence is actually enabling them to sort through these images much more rapidly. So it's basically improving their efficiency so they can go out and do